Nothing But Rants, a show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Nothing but rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rain. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going dumb with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger bands. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, it's the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold them up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back that back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care. Come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. The G on the beat, hey. Yeah.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape. Feel free to take it where it needs to go. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday evening. As usual, we got a loaded show for you guys tonight. We will talk about whether or not we're going to see a decrease in the total number of opt-outs. Some big names already announcing that they're going to be playing in their quote-unquote meaningless bowl games. We'll talk about some of those meaningless bowl games, which of the matchups we think are going to be some of the best football games. Bill Belichick seemingly making his way to college football, things heating up between he and North Carolina. How do we know? Thanks to the 24-year-old girlfriend's Instagram page. Thank the Lord above, we have reached the pinnacle of college football news. Florida State and Mississippi State may be IDing their potential portal quarterbacks and additions to their roster. And that's kind of where I want to start tonight's show. We are in hostile negotiation periods. That's where we are right now, okay? You see, the portal window is just some obligatory date window that they set for finalizing or for the finalizing of deals. Most people think that this time period, this portal window, is when, phone calls are had and deals are struck and we just start the dating process. That's what most people think, or at least that's what the rules make you think and believe that's actually going on in college football, and that could not be the furthest thing from the truth. Those people are wrong, right? The rules aren't being followed right about now. Every deal for the best football players in this sport has already been negotiated. It's already been hinted upon. It's already been talked about. What schools you might be negotiating with has already been decided upon before these windows ever even open up officially, if you will. What we have right now during this portal window, what's actually going on during these windows is the hostile negotiation period of this timetable, right? This is how this actually works, okay? A player comes into coach's office that he's playing for right now, and he says, Coach, I think I'm going to hit the portal, right? And tells him, not only do I think I'm going to hit the portal, I've got these other offers that are already rolling in, and you have the opportunity now, before I officially hit the portal, to counteract these offers, right? And so that coach sits down with that player, and they start negotiating, okay, well, maybe we do give you that money, or maybe we match that, but here's what. If we match that, we need this from you. And then player counteracts that, and they sit here and have these negotiations, right? Normal. What would you call them? Cordial negotiations prior to actually entering the portal. And then once they enter the portal, that's when the hostile negotiation portions of this, timetable begin, right? That's when all gloves are off, and now it's time to actually call one another's bluff, and that's where we are at right now. The true free market, all right, is the final result. Most of these players go into these meetings with these coaches already knowing that not only am I leaving, but I know the school I'm going to. Most college football coaches will tell you this. Kirby Smart most recently on the record saying, 9 times out of 10, when guys come into my office telling me they're leaving, they already know where they're going. Now, how does that happen? What I'm telling you. It's exactly what happens, right? These deals are struck behind closed doors in the black market of things, and now we are into the free negotiated market, the public market, if you will, right? It also should be stated, particularly because there's a lot of players that listen to this broadcast. A lot of college football players have picked this up and watched the show. And I just want to say this. There are a lot of people that are hitting the transfer portal, a lot of players that are hitting the transfer portal right now that have no idea they've probably played their last down of organized football. Okay? And here's the statement, and here's what I want to say. If you are not being tampered with, your ass don't need to be in that portal. If people aren't calling you in the end of October and early November, late November, early December, if your phone's not already getting hit with potential suitors, you don't need to be going in there, okay? Because you might not have a place to land on the backside of that thing. Thoughts on the portal time period, boys, and welcome into tonight's show.
Well, I think, too, like if you compare it to like a high school situation, the reason why I'm going to say this is kids that transfer to different high schools, well, the reason why they're transferring to a new high school is because a coach has approached them or somebody from another team has come to them and say, we want you on our squad. This is what we want you to be for us. You should come transfer to this school. So, like, these players who transfer to new high schools, they know what they're getting into. They know the deal. Like, they've already been contacted by somebody. You don't have people saying, like, I'm just going to transfer high schools and see what happens. Like, very similar to the transfer portal of same scenario. Like, you should know where you're going to go before you enter it.
I mean, it's the new era of college football, and we've kind of been in this for a while now to where you should expect this at this point, but you should not be surprised to hear that the majority of people who are entering the portal already know where they're going. They've already gotten their deals mapped out. They've already gotten the ideas as to what's going to happen for them before the season's over. And it's unfortunate that it aligns with the 12-team playoff right now because you have so many teams that are getting ready for a playoff game that will decide whether or not they have another shot at playing in the national title. And, oh, by the way, they now have to deal with all of these things. Like, beforehand, it was, okay, we've got these 4 teams. We can kind of wait. We can kind of push it down a little bit and say, let us get through this playoff settings before we really start hitting the transfer portal guys. Now it's a free-for-all, essentially.
Especially these backup or these quarterbacks that have publicly lost their jobs, like Jackson Arnold or Miller Moss. Yeah. Jackson Arnold and Miller Moss have been fielding phone calls since the day they got benched. I guarantee it. I guarantee they already have a good sense of where they're going to go. It's how we see these, and he's doing a great job, and he's obviously talking to a bunch of agents, but it's how we see guys like Pete Nakos reporting the schools to look out for once the portal opens for this player. All these conversations are already being had. This is a byproduct. This time period that we're in now, it's just for the lesser known players to let the world know that they've entered the portal. All right. Speaking of the portal, we've got news for you, but I'm going to give you a rundown on the show sheet today. We'll talk about the decrease in opt-outs, so the potential for that. We'll go through some of these bowl game selections that have been made and talk about some of the more ideal matchups in that one. We will circle back around to Bill Belichick and North Carolina. Florida State and Mississippi State potentially circling their future quarterbacks in the portal as well. And some bigger names rolling into the portal is where we're going to start. But I want to first and foremost ask everybody to make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and review, okay? And why I say the rate and review portion of this stuff, if you miss miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, it is made readily available. However, wherever you get your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. We're right there for you. Make sure you leave a review over there, and make sure you're supporting those who support us, like our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, the college football season's almost done, but it's a great time to be over there, especially during bowl season, right? You watch all year of college football. You've got the extra analysis on this. You've got 14 games of a feel for what these football teams are fitting to do during bowl season with a potential decrease in opt-outs. Some good opportunities over on BetUS. Using promo code YouTube150, you get a 150% deposit match over there on your first-time deposit up to $2,000 and a 125% deposit match up to $2,000 on your next 2 deposits. Guys, that's a deposit match on your first 3 deposits. Come on. There's no better place to be than over on BetUS using that promo code YouTube150. Boys, we finally hit it. We finally hit the day in the portal activity where we actually got some potential difference makers putting their name into the portal, most notably, in my opinion, Malik Murphy, former 5-star, borderline 5-star quarterback, commits to Texas out of high school, spends a year there as the backup to Quinn Ewers, then transfers to Duke, throws for 2,900 yards. They go 9-3. My man's back in the portal as of today. I think he's the most talented quarterback in the portal as of right now.
And this felt like one of those moves where, okay, I'm going to go to Duke where I'm guaranteed a starting spot. I can showcase my skills. I can showcase these bigger schools. I am the quarterback that I believe that I am, and kind of field bigger offers come the end of the season. That's exactly how it's playing out right now. I mean, he's probably going to go to the SEC somewhere, or at least a Big Ten school. He's going to be a handsomely paid quarterback at the end of this cycle.
Yeah, the numbers were okay. Like, it was like a 59% completion percentage.
Yeah.
But still solid overall numbers. Like, when I watched Duke a few times this year, and I left overall impressed with the talent that is Malik Murphy, and that's kind of what you're betting on, too, when you're taking a guy like him. This was his first year getting some actual burn consistently as a starting quarterback. Did pretty well at Duke. Duke had a pretty good season as well. So certainly feels like not only is he trying to make sure he capitalizes on his college career, but also probably get surrounded by some better talent, see if those numbers can have an uptick on it and get a better draft scouting profile on him.
I felt like it was a good match.
Yeah, I liked it.
I felt like it was a good match, and I certainly feel like coming out of Duke, it's not like people knock you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Riley Leonard, or not Riley Leonard, my man Daniel Jones didn't exactly get knocked down draft boards for putting up 2,900 yards and being big and physical.
No.
That's exactly what we just saw from Malik Murphy. I'm with you, though. I can't remember the exact number of turnovers, but I felt like he was far less turnover prone than I expected him to be in his first year starting. This is a football player that coming out of high school, you know, we're still in that class of quarterbacks that got jacked up by COVID. Mm-hmm. You know, like Nico. Nico only played like 14, 15 high school football games. It's not a guy that started 35 times in high school before he got to college. Malik Murphy, same thing. I don't even think Malik Murphy has a high school highlight tape. I don't think I found one, because I remember going to the Elite 11 having no indications of what this guy was other than the fact that he's 6'5", 220, got a chooch on him. And yes, he does. He's got an absolute hose. So I'm excited to see where he ends up. I hope it's at a place where there might be a little bit better weaponry and supporting cast around him. And I think that's what he's ultimately looking for. A lot of people think this is a money play, and perhaps it is. The market's crazier than it ever has been for quarterbacks, but I think this is more about maybe getting into a better fit around me than everything else.
Hell, why not just go to Notre Dame again?
He certainly stands out in the current quarterback class right now.
Yeah.
Like, that is the headliner in the group.
Speaking of the headliner in the group, I think the biggest name in the portal, or perhaps the biggest blue chip in the portal this offseason, is going to be Williams Nwaneri. Just hit today. 5-star former commit out of the state of Missouri, I believe, ends up committing to the Missouri Tigers. Obviously, one of those situations where Missouri has that advantage on in-state prospects. They're able to pay those players the senior year of their high school season if they commit to the in-state school. So maybe a little bit of a year one cash grab for Williams Nwaneri. At least that's what the internet thinks of this. I thought it was the best opportunity to just, put the timeline or refresh the timeline with the video of, Eli Drinkowitz jumping and wrapping his legs around a grown man in some camo cargo shorts.
This has got to feel like such a gut punch for Missouri, because, you think about when they landed him at the time. They were just coming off of a really, really good season where, hey, 12-team playoff coming right down the pipe. We're going to be a playoff team next year. We just got Williams Nwaneri. This is a program-defining, program-changing signing by us. Turns out that he was there for 1 year and didn't really do much for you, unfortunately.
What'd you
Now
just
he's
perk
leaving.
up for?
I mean, we just have great timing. The fact that we talk about Malik Murphy and then a list gets drops of teams that are interested in him. If you had to guess, who do you think is interested in him?
It's all big players. Give it to me.
Miami and Auburn.
Miami and Auburn.
Those are the two schools that are being floated around right now. And I was going to say, like, go to Miami. They just did it with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Why
Don't
not
go
you
to
try and
Miami.
do the same thing?
Don't go to Miami. They're losing so much talent this year. Go to Auburn. Like, seriously.
Yeah. I guess Auburn's looking for a 1-year stopgap because they got in they're going to host Jackson Arnold this
Yeah.
week as well.
And they were involved with the Caden Salter kid.
Yeah,
Didn't he coach Kane Salter?
yeah,
though?
for a year. I just don't know why you don't just like you're paying Deuce Knight a bunch of money, I would imagine. You're selling everybody on the future of the program and the promise of your recruits. Just roll them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you get another year of excuse for 4-8 or excuse for 6-6. We have a freshman quarterback.
And I think like Malik Murphy himself would be in a better position at Miami, where you can go to Miami and if you don't absolutely light it up, I think you'll be okay. If you go to Auburn and you're not playing well, people are going to be telling you to get benched. I don't see that being like this major thing weighing over his head at Miami. Like you're a talented quarterback. They'll live and die by you if you go to Miami. Whereas Auburn, there's a propensity for people to be upset and say, get this guy out of here.
Back to Winery. The interesting thing about Winery, I remember him coming out of high school. I thought he was like 6'5", 240.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he's listed at? I don't know it's a roster listing, but you know what he's listed at on Missouri's roster right now?
Probably
no
like
idea.
6'6", 2 something.
6'7", 255 pounds.
God.
That's a big man.
That's a massive human.
That's almost a zero.
I mean, almost so big you wonder if he can bend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I also think there was some very interesting. Why didn't he play? Why didn't he play this year?
Well,
He played in 4 games per their website, which when I see you play 4 games, I'm like, oh, well, you must have been wanting a red shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my immediate indicator.
And if you're Missouri, you're paying him a lot of money. He's going to be threatening to leave. You need to be playing him unless he's A, not good enough to play, which scary in its own right, or B, not willing to play because he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which one of those is the case? I need to know before I commit to giving this guy $900,000 to 1.2, whatever he's going to get. Which you imagine it's going to be in that range? It's going to be north of $750,000.
Yeah, I think that the internet's kind of leaning towards that's option B here. Like he probably never really had interest in going to Missouri, but it's, hey, I can go here, get a red shirt, I have a mulligan, and oh, by the way, I just made $1.5 million doing that. And it didn't really cost me any eligibility. I didn't really put myself at risk because I'm only going to play 4 games if I'm redshirting. So very well could have happened. Now, obviously, that's just speculation, but
It feels to me of the Quinn Ewers timeline at Ohio State and this is definitely plays into this too, because while Missouri was able to pay Winery while he was in high school because of their state laws with NIL, Quinn Ewers reclassified, joined Ohio State's roster, went ahead and was starting rolling in his NIL deals for a year at Ohio State, and then after 1 year, dipped out and then went to Texas.
Chad's asking about Bear Alexander. I hear he came to Georgia for a visit. No, he came to Georgia and bought a ticket for a football game.
Mm-hmm.
And he just officially entered the portal, and the 3 schools that are connected to him are SMU, Penn State, and Oregon. I, for one, I'm kind of glad that Georgia didn't take the bait on that one. I don't think you need he's a really good 3 tech. We all know that. He's a really good defensive tackle.
I think it also be
I'm good.
very bad optics
Yeah.
to take him back.
Well, from my understanding, there was the staff was going to be, I think, okay with it. I don't think the team was.
Understandable.
Can you blame him?
Which the staff at Georgia is all talent-based, always has been. But it resides back into the locker room eventually on some of these things. So I think he ends up at SMU, to be honest with you.
Wouldn't surprise me.
A fat check from Texas, go back home, right there.
Yeah.
All good.
The ponies are back, dude.
The ponies are back, and they're ponying up. That's for damn sure. Another name in the portal today, Deuce Robinson, leaving USC. He's a 5-star coming out of high school. He's a top 25 player in the country. I bet he's already on a visit to Oregon. Doesn't it make sense?
I mean, that
Almost
checks
makes too
out
much
like
sense.
West Coast.
Yeah.
Go get paid, dude.
Super high explosive passing attack that in years past has featured big physical guys in the slot. The weird thing about me with Deuce is that, I mean, out of high school, he was 6'6", 220. I mean, he's also projected to be the next Aaron Judge. Is that guy's name, the baseball player?
Yeah.
He's projected to be the next Aaron Judge, too. He's projected like top 3-round baseball talent coming out of high school. He ends up selecting to play football in college. I think he tried year one to play both sports. I don't think he's still playing baseball at USC, but he's in the portal now. Probably wants to stay at wide receiver. I wish he'd convert to tight end. I wish he would. I wish he'd put like 10, 15 pounds on and just be a terrifying mismatch as a tight end.
I mean, if he gets to the NFL, you'd have to assume they probably entertain that idea.
For sure.
But how bad is this for Lincoln Riley?
Well, I mean, this is a guy that, to be honest with you, they couldn't seem to get the most out of.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's maybe Lincoln's okay with it. And by the way, has Lincoln ever had a 6'5" receiver that's been like really, really good? His best receivers in the history of his offenses are CD and Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. He wasn't. Yeah, he was not there. Was he there with Drake London?
No,
I didn't think so.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either. I think that was like right before he got there.
And even Drake's, yeah, no, he's big.
He's a big guy.
He's 6'5". He's huge. You're right. So I don't know. The offense just doesn't feature big X's. They're like all slot Z type guys. Run after the catch dudes.
Yeah, it's a Zachariah Branch. It's those types of profiles.
Exactly. Where's he at?
I have no idea.
What did he do this year? Last year was his people 5 weeks into the season last year were like, is a freshman going to win the Heisman? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And nothing this year from Zachariah Branch.
I mean, there's
on the national stage.
There's been rumors that he's planning on entering the portal, but I don't think he's officially come in yet. So.
Man, that guy's a freak.
That'll be a guy that'll probably be a very interesting name once it does. But once again, like
did he have 1,000 all-purpose yards this year, Jonathan?
He had 503 receiving yards for 1 touchdown. Kick returns, he had 74 yards.
Was he hurt? Did he play in all the games?
It says he played in 12 games. Very
Sophomore
interesting.
slump.
I feel like that meme of that guy in New York City looking at that cat saying, "We gonna get you out of here." I feel that way about Zachariah Branch right now in USC. We gonna get you out of here.
Oh, he'll probably end up getting out. Don't worry.
I need to see Zachariah Branch for like 12 hundo.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fun. I don't want to see him on a 6-6 fighting for a bowl game football team.
Yeah.
Only getting 500 yards receiving. That's not fun. Another name, Nick Anderson. Big 6'3.5" wide receiver from Oklahoma. Was banged up a lot this year, but was damn near a freshman All-American last year, if not a freshman All-American. Tremendous jump ball guy as well. If you don't get Dane Key, I think you need to get Nick Anderson. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're in the market for Dane Key, you need to be in the market for Nick Anderson as well. Two very similar football players in my opinion.
Very similar.
Oklahoma also lost Khalil Farouk.
Yeah.
Another wide receiver that was a starter for them, or when he was healthy.
Well, you know, he just couldn't live up to the Stoops shadow that was left by my man Lunch Pail Stoops in that slot last year. Yeah, Lunch Pail Stoops. That's what I said. Lunch Pail Stoops right there in that slot position for Venables' squad. Just couldn't outlive the shadow.
It's a big shadow.
That's the second time in the portal for Mr. Farouk, right? He came from Purdue.
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
Interesting. Nick Singleton, wide receiver from Georgia Tech. I'm surprised they kept him last year. As a true freshman last year at Georgia Tech, he had 1,800 yards. 3-star, 800 yards as a true freshman. 9 times out of 10, that's bag chasing year one after that.
Oh, yeah.
So he at least did his due diligence and showed, some loyalty going back to Georgia Tech this year, but officially in the portal. And, Jonathan, you were telling me before the show, this one's already fetching north of 1.7. He wants 2.
Yeah, people are saying, floating around the number of $2 million. Like, that's the asking price for this one. So,
Oregon.
And you know what? I mean, considering that as soon as he entered the portal, everybody was saying, like, this is the top wide receiver in the class right now. This is one of the top. You need to say something?
Yeah, we might have news on this front. Keep it under wraps.
All right. Anyways, but I think that because he was being listed as like
Eric
this is
Singleton,
number one,
not Nick Singleton, my bad.
This is the number one wide receiver in this class right now. This is one of the top players in the transfer portal. when you start getting that attached to you, then yeah, you get to have these types of numbers floating beside you. But I think it could also scare off some potential suitors, some really good suitors for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when you're the hot name, you can kind of name whatever price you want. It seems to be that. I think you're going to turn away a handful of teams that probably would have been in on you otherwise, but who cares? Someone out there is going to pay him, so go get your money, dude.
Chat just put me onto something that I have to go look for right now. Apparently, there's a viral video of Kenny Dillingham singing Rod Wave, and that's like my two worlds colliding.
Oh boy,
that's Coach of the Year and the King of R&B combining together for a collab.
Absolutely,
talk to me, sir. I need that video in my mentions right now on Twitter, ASAP, because I can't find it mid-show. But I think I might go to sleep to that video tonight.
That's your white noise for the night?
Yep. My white noise is going to be Kenny Dillingham singing No Deal by Rod Wave.
That
that label No Deal.
That is something. Wow.
Any more thoughts on portal players before we talk about what we're actually tracking right now with the SEC?
I think it's just going to be one of those things, like, we're in the very early steps of this. Like, it seems like we all kind of agree that the big ones haven't come yet. Like, if these are the biggest names of the portal this year, it's going to be very surprising. So just give it time.
That's what my question was going to be, is like, you haven't heard any.
Because the portal entry is the last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
All these big names that you're worried about, they're actively negotiating right now.
Oh, yeah.
And the moment their host team can't win out on the negotiations, that's when they'll officially hit the portal with a list of teams that they already know that they're going to.
Yep.
So it's not that your big names are safe right now. It's that your big names ain't lost their battles yet on some of these programs. Some of these programs, guys, are losing them left and right. Let's run down the list of SEC portal entries from day one. All right, Mississippi State, 21 players. Arkansas, 20. Kentucky, 19. Texas A&M, 13. Oklahoma, 12. Auburn, 11. LSU, 11. Vandy, 10. Bama, 8. South Carolina, 7. Ole Miss, 6. Missouri, 5. Texas, 5. Florida, 4. Tennessee, 3. Georgia, 2. A couple of things stand out most to me right there, boys. Let's start with y'all. What sticks out?
That's a lot of players for Arkansas and Mississippi
Yeah.
State. That's quite a few players.
And Kentucky.
The Mississippi State one I can kind of get because it's still like, all right, we're going to keep purging until I have my roster and that I want. But for Arkansas, it's very interesting.
Arkansas and Kentucky, like a lot of these SEC schools, when you see a bunch of guys leave, you're like, okay, maybe some mid-major guys are taking some of their backups. Maybe some of these guys that aren't playing on these rosters are leaving. And some of these football players on these rosters are. But I went through Arkansas's today. Of the 26 of those guys are starting football players on their roster.
Ooh.
Of Kentucky's, 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 of those guys are starting football players on their roster. That is the first sign of a dying program.
And I think the Kentucky one we can kind of understand because there was clearly a lot of dysfunction within that program, more than you've probably ever seen at a Mark Stoops Kentucky program in the last 5 years.
Shit, if you're Brock Vandagriff, do you think about getting out of there?
I was going to ask, why isn't he already out of there?
Yeah.
I mean,
they already bailed for the freshman on you, bud.
Mm-hmm.
And all the weapons that they brought in for you are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why are you not out of there?
Yeah, it's interesting.
But the Arkansas one is kind of surprising me because, I mean, by all standards, like Arkansas had a relatively good year, I would say. Like they didn't do anything special.
They
but,
outperformed. I wouldn't say they had a good year. They outperformed the bad year that we thought they were going to have.
right. Like we all came into this year thinking like, ooh, Sam Pittman, this might be it, buddy. And he's still around. And so it's interesting that the team and the roster is not reflecting the year.
But I feel like this always happens to Arkansas because Arkansas is one of these programs, too, where it feels like you're a bit of a stepping stone. Like if you come to Arkansas and you absolutely ball out, a select few of them, they're going to make sure that you hold on, that they hold on to you. Like a guy like Taylon Green, I would imagine Arkansas is going to do everything that they can to make sure that they hold on to a guy like Taylon Green. But you can't afford all of them, so you have to be very selective of them. I mean, you're a year removed from Raheem Sanders entering the transfer portal, going to South Carolina, and then their freshman running back this year. He entered the portal as well for this year. So
6'1", 255 is that joker. That's an H-back. That's an H-back. Or a Wildcat running back if you're a Ole Miss D tackle. That was the other one that stood out to me. Ole Miss only has 6 guys in the portal right now, and this is a roster that normally turns it over every year. They turn that roster over ad nauseum. So I wonder where the room is. I mean, he took almost 20 high school football players, only having 6 go out. This isn't a roster that has 30 guys get drafted every year. So where are the players departing from this roster in order for him to go out and do his portal shenanigans that he normally does?
I mean, I do think that this is probably going to be one of his bigger NFL rosters.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like
It's
a lot
loaded
of
with seniors,
Yeah.
and you're right. Princely Mamilan, Walter Nolan, Jackson Dart, the tight end, Trey Harris, maybe Juice Wells gets drafted. It'll be one of his heavier draft classes. You're correct.
Yeah, I mean,
and it is senior laden.
And it goes back to like a couple months ago. I think it was into the season at one point. Like they had shirts going around that said "Last Dance," and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Lane Kiffin's definitely leaving Ole Miss." I think it was more representative of the fact that you have a roster full of guys that are kind of doing their last season of college football. So that's probably why you haven't seen as much of an influx in the portal as you would normally at Ole Miss.
Now, the number is 4. It moved to 5 today with Jack Pyburn hitting the portal, but Florida has done a relatively decent job of maintaining what's left on their roster as of right now, with Billy Napier being retained as the head football coach.
And it's all positive signs for Florida. Like we talked about how, yeah, you're keeping Billy, but the recruiting doesn't seem to be right now. They made massive pushes on signing day. They ended up making some really, really good strides in recruiting. Now you've got guys that aren't jumping ship. Obviously, you're going to have some portal entries. That's just the way college football works nowadays. But it's not like you're seeing a massive overhaul of guys who are on this Florida roster saying, oh, if you're bringing Billy Napier back, I'm out of here. Like, you're not having that, which is a great sign for Florida.
All right, some predictions have been put in on some of these websites for some of these transfer quarterbacks already. Thomas Castellanos, who lost his job at Boston College and threw 19 interceptions over the last 2 seasons and completed less than 60% of his passes, has been predicted to be the next starting quarterback for the Florida State Seminoles.
The guy that left the team, too, after he got benched.
Yes, mid-season.
Sounds like a match made in heaven at this point.
Look, I like Thomas. Thomas is from Ware County. He's a Georgia kid. I think he's an elite play creator, an elite playmaker. Definitely has a turnover problem. Got some bad advice this year. Got some real bad advice. There is no worse look than quitting on your team mid-year when you lose your job. You sit there, you take your transfer portal phone calls while you're on the roster. You keep throwing footballs. You keep working out. You be, for lack of a better term, you be a man about the situation.
Right.
You be an adult about the situation. You don't do this. I don't think this is a good idea for Florida State, though. I think there's a lot more around that roster that they need to repair, but they don't have a quarterback.
That's what I was about to say.
Nope. Chromanuk hit the portal. The guy they signed last class just hit the portal. Their guy this year is graduating. They don't have a quarterback on the roster.
Nope.
Yeah, no, that was my whole point of they have to have somebody, though.
They gotta
have
find
to.
someone, and that's like, and I don't want to like make this seem bad, but like if that's the guy that you guys are gonna be like, okay, this is the guy we're going after, like.
And maybe
things could get very, very ugly for Florida State.
And maybe that is them saying, this is the quarterback we're going to take because we have to build elsewhere. Like, we have to make sure we build up.
We're going to take
roster.
a value bin transfer quarterback so we can build elsewhere. Also, by the way, Gus Malzahn, the new coordinator, so he doesn't need a pocket passer.
Yeah.
In fact, he needs this. He needs something like
needs
this.
a
So
mobile guy.
it's a stylistic fit for Gus. The turnover prone problems are a problem. Like
sure.
You just got rid of a quarterback who couldn't complete or couldn't throw the ball accurately and turned it over too much, and we're going to replace him with a quarterback who can't throw the ball accurately and turns it over too much. But at least he's a runner, so that's good news. So I guess that's that. Jackson Arnold predicted to Mississippi State, though he is going to take a trip to Auburn this weekend. Auburn very clearly looking for a stopgap quarterback.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it this one. I would do the Caden Salter thing. I think Caden's only got one more year left. You know, that's a kid that came out of high school, went to Tennessee, got in some trouble, took a year off, spent, I think, now 3 years up with Liberty. So this will be his last year of college football, I'm under the impression. So I would do the Salter thing before I do the Arnold thing at Auburn. It makes much more sense for Jackson Arnold to go to Mississippi State, where his coordinator they committed to is Jeff Levy, committed to him at Oklahoma.
And that's what I was going to say is it makes more sense for Arnold to go to Mississippi State, and it makes more sense for Auburn to find someone else to come play quarterback for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Jackson Arnold experience, I think we can all agree, wasn't what we hoped it would be at Oklahoma. And the stopgap quarterback idea for Auburn is very interesting because you have a current 5-star that's coming in, and it's kind of been advertised as what's going to turn things around for Hugh Freeze. So I guess it's them, and I don't get it either, because we talked about last year, Auburn didn't make a move in the portal because we all thought, okay, we need to build around Auburn's waiting on the time where they think, okay, we're going to compete for a national title before we make a move. And the fact that they're making a move now on guys that you don't necessarily think are going to be the ones that elevate this roster to a national title contention, and we don't think Auburn's ready to compete now. So it's very interesting that you're using this, other than the fact that maybe you're going to use the stopgap quarterback in red shirt. So
Chat's going crazy with some stuff I don't believe. I think they're trying to troll me. Kirby, you're of the belief that we're going to see fewer opt-outs this year during bowl season.
Well, it's interesting because it seems like trending this way. Like Cam Ward very well has a very, very good chance of being the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2025 draft class. I mean, if you are a stamped first rounder in history the last 5 years, you don't play in a bowl game. You've opted out by now. He has already opted in, and other guys are doing it too. We saw the video last night. Fran Brown, basically his entire team's opting in. Jalen Miller, I would assume, is playing in his game. Jackson Dart's opting in. Guys like that. It's very interesting to see that some big names, maybe not necessarily first-round locks, but guys that you would think in the past would traditionally opt out are opting back in.
You know who's got the projected number 1 overall pick right now, don't you?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I have no idea.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
That's right, dude.
This man right here is going to go all year hating, praying for the downfall of one Cameron Ward.
I don't want him.
Only for him to end up on his favorite NFL football team having to root for him every Sunday. Wouldn't that be poetic?
It would be, except for the fact that they're going to take Shador.
Buddy, how would you feel about that? Not as a college show, but how would you feel about your Las Vegas Raiders taking Shador Sanders over Cameron Ward?
I don't love either of them. I don't love any quarterback in this class. But I mean, the connections that you've seen with Tom Brady and all the training that he does with him, the fact that Tom Brady's a minority owner, they will take Shador Sanders, whatever their pick is, whether it's the first or second.
Damn. It's sad. It's unfortunate, I guess. Maybe he's going to be the guy. Maybe he's the next Tom Brady.
Yes. I don't think Cam Ward is an NFL quarterback. We talked about this before, but we've gone into that. We can talk about it later. But.
All right, we've got a bunch of local Georgia-related questions. Give us 25 minutes. We'll hammer all of those. We'll talk about Ja Jarrett. We'll talk about Colby Young. Maybe I'll address this rumor that seems to be starting up about the offensive coordinator at Georgia, which I don't believe. But people are really trying to stoke that one. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
People are really trying to get this one up off the ground, and I don't think it is there. So we'll talk about those in the local hour. Let's continue to hammer out these national topics. But I'm with you to an extent. Some of these national names, like a Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord in years past has never opted out. A Kyle McCord. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a guy who's like a third-round quarterback eval right now is not opting out of a college football bowl game. Never has, probably never will. But, yeah, Cam Ward acknowledging that he's going to play. I think we're getting half and half because for every Cam Ward, both of the offensive tackles for LSU have opted out. Both of the first-round caliber football players from Michigan have opted out, Mason Graham and Will Johnson, who, if you ask Michigan fans, Will Johnson's kind of opted out the last 3 or 4 weeks. Luther Burden has opted out. Shamar Stewart at Texas A&M has opted out. So there has been – but for every one of those, there's a Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe's playing in his bowl game. So is Jalen Milroe going to go to the NFL draft? Are we sure about this?
Nobody really seems to know.
Yeah, that Jalen Milroe's a first-round quarterback talk kind of died off real quick, didn't it?
It died when they got beat 24-3.
Did my man Mel Kiper have that dude inside the top 25 of his overall prospect big board?
Probably. Well, it was, you look really good against Georgia. Oh, you're a first-round pick.
Heisman.
Got to. I don't know. Do you think Alabama fans want him gone?
Yeah.
Based on what I've read, it's
based off our chat already, yeah.
But it's very split of, we want Jalen Milroe out of here, and then some people are like, guys, like if you can get Jalen Milroe back, I feel like you should take him back.
Based off Kalen DeBoer's history of quarterbacks, I bet he's licking his chops to play some game management Ty Simpson.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I mean, dude was willing to pay Will Rogers. So he's probably licking his chops for some Ty Simpson. By the way, I think Ty Simpson would eat it up in his system. I think Ty Simpson's a good college quarterback.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that maybe what is kind kind of happened with opt-outs in the bowl game is I think when they really started, like when they started becoming a thing, I think people who were not opting out of their games, like Derek King, he played in his bowl game, tore his ACL, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So that was kind of like the setting precedent of.
Nah, it goes back earlier than that. There was a linebacker, Jalen Smith, the linebacker for Notre Dame, blew his knee up back in like.
Oof. I'm good, guys. Don't
buddy.
That was hairy for a second.
I'm good, dude. Don't worry.
That thing came from deep.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith blew his knee up, and then after, I think the very next year we saw Christian McCaffrey opt out, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was things like that of like there were multiple moments of this occurring of when bowl game opt-outs started happening, and then it was, well, look at what's happened at guys that have elected to play in these games, and it's really impacted their future. Whereas now I think you're starting to see the other side of it, and you're starting to see this upward trend of you should play in your bowl game if you can. Like, unless you have absolutely no reason whatsoever to play in this game, like whether it be you're already kind of banged up, you don't need to be doing that, or any other reasons, or like I'm already locked in as a top 10 pick.
Yeah,
like,
I've got a checklist of reasons why I'm okay with you opting out. You ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you're a top 60 eval, you don't got to play, buddy.
Nope.
I'm okay with you. I'm okay with you not playing. You got enough tape. If you have any lingering issues, any lingering injuries, and you're draft eligible, you probably shouldn't play. I'm talking about not like, my ankle hurts. I'm talking about my hamstring is slightly sprained, and if I tear it, I can't play I can't do the combine. Like that is millions of dollars going down the drain if we don't take care of ourselves. Those are my only two situations. That's it. Top 60 eval, lingering issue that could become much worse. You don't have to play in this football game. I do think that the contracts that are coming down the pike with the settlement of House vs. NCAA will provide some clearing of the muck around these types of football games. I think there's going to be some incentives in the contract to make sure you play in these games, to remove these opt-outs, make these bowl games matter again.
Will it be incentives, or will they be legally bound to doing so?
I think it'll be your contract's prorated off of the amount of games you play. That's what I think it'll be.
Okay.
But the hard part about that is how do you prorate it for 13 games for some and 17 games for others?
Well, how do you also prorate it when, coach, my ankle's bothering me this week. I'm going to have to miss 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, missing it and opting out, two totally different things.
Exactly,
yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, we can fake an injury. I used to have an athletic trainer tell me all the time, like, there's nothing I can do to legitimize or delegitimize an injury. If you come in here and tell me something hurts, something hurts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I can probably go to coach and go, I don't think it's real, but I can't tell him it's not for certainty, especially concussions.
Mm-hmm. So
feel a little spacey today, coach. Johnny, that's you every day. You have a 1.9.
1.9.
That's crazy. Can't even play, dude. Doesn't matter.
What were you about to say?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, I thought I heard something. Should we get into this Belichick stuff?
Very interesting.
Let's do it.
Belichick to UNC getting close to official per reports. There was one reporter that said it's already done. There's some things that they're apparently mulling over. I think UNC has offered the job. Bill Belichick is still waiting to see if they will agree upon a couple of stipulations in his contract, most of which I don't know. There was a 400-page outline, however, that he did present to UNC as to how he will run the program. And here's where we've reached in the world of reporting around Bill Belichick. There are inklings on the internets, the interwebs, that Bill Belichick's girlfriend, who is 24 years old, is confirming reports that he is going to UNC, and here's how. There's a former UNC cheerleader that is friends with Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend on Instagram. She commented on 24-year-old girlfriend's Instagram post, "Bring Bill to UNC." 24-year-old girlfriend responded, "I'll do what I can." Winky face.
Ooh.
Yep. What's crazier? Bill Belichick's about to take a UNC job. Bill Belichick dating a 24-year-old co-ed.
24-year-old. I always thought it was fake. I didn't think it was real. I thought people were just making it as a joke.
No, it's real. They're for realsies. They're Instagram of fish.
He is literally old enough to be her grandpa.
Yeah, there's a 38-year age gap.
Some allegations that are tough.
48. 48. Whoa.
That's good for Bill, man.
Bro, he's 300% older than her.
God.
Holy shit.
Shout out to Billy B for
He is 3x her age. Wow. Good for him. But hey, I tweeted today and it went uber viral. You can't tell me mans can't recruit. You can't tell me mans can't relate to young people.
Is it the same?
And then I had some people out here like, well, you know he only is dating a 24-year-old because he's rich. Hey, have you not been paying attention to college recruiting as of late? They kind of follow the money, as do, young women dating old dudes.
Yeah, but that following the money is a little different than following the money in college football. Bill Belichick is not. He might do some of this because he can, but he's not personally buying his own roster with his own money. It's not. I got the dough for you.
Why not?
Well, I said he could do it. He's one of the people that could do it.
He got to be worth like $200 million.
Sure.
That's 10 championship caliber rosters in a row. He could build a dynasty.
No. I think we also need to remember that the back end of Bill Belichick's coaching career wasn't that spectacular.
It was bad.
The last 4 years, the ones that were without Brady, he went 29-38, had one winning season and 0 playoff
But
wins.
he can buy a Brady every year.
He got a Cam Newton.
Who's the new Brady?
We got a Cam Newton.
You got to find him.
immediately after.
People have been looking for a while.
What do you think about the recruiting pitch of I'm Bill Belichick?
I mean, yeah,
It's gonna work to some degree. It's
For
not the
for like 4 stars that are deciding between Duke and North Carolina.
Here's the best thing for North
High 4
Carolina.
stars. Low
is
4 stars.
You're in a conference where if Bill Belichick builds up a defense that is worth a dang, you're going to win football games.
Dude,
because there ain't many of those.
It is a conference that can be won by coaches in a sport where those don't exist. It doesn't exist in the SEC. Your roster and your talent pool and your recruiting funding win you championships. In the Big Ten, same thing now with Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, what Penn State does year in and year out on the recruiting trail. In the ACC, you have to out-recruit Clemson right now? What? Mm-hmm. Come on, dog. Like, the best recruiting teams in that conference are Florida State and Miami. They're kind of in their own echelon. Guys, I have a top 5 or top 4 ACC coaching jobs list. You ready?
Yeah.
Here they are. 1, Miami. 2, Florida State. 3, Clemson. 4, to be determined. Over the last decade of this conference, those 3 teams have been up, like trading off at the top, Clemson being the top. All right. And then the 4th best team in the conference is just like a trading face. Why can't it be Bill Belichick?
It could. My worry isn't recruiting with Bill Belichick. It's the fact that you're going to get 18 to 22-year-old kids when playing for you when you have videos and videos and videos of former players that were professional athletes that have been playing football their entire life saying playing for Bill Belichick, 1, was not fun, 2, was extremely hard, 3, was very difficult. He's very hard to play for. Like, professional Tom Brady, the greatest player of all time, said that. I'm worried about how the 18 to 22-year-old kids will react, especially in this era of college football.
So my kickback on that is that those types of coaches have always been told they will work better in college than they do in the pro
controlling.
ranks. Because they're controlling and they're a matter of discipline. And 18 to 23-year-olds consistently week in and week out need discipline to perform.
I agree.
So we've always been told that those styles of coaches, those hard-nosed coaches, those guys that are always on top of your shit, those guys work in college. By the way, we cover one who's pretty notoriously that way. Like the best coach in college football right now is a lunatic about discipline, and he's hard to play for.
Well, and I think too, like it would work better on the college level, perhaps too. Of in the NFL, there's a seniority complex between you as a coach and your players. Because your really good players are making more money than you. They are the top earning asset in that facility. Whereas in college, it's the head coach. The head coach, more times than not, he's the one that's the top earner. So telling a 30-year-old wide receiver in the NFL that he's not doing enough or you're having to coach him really hard when he's making $25 million and you're making 10, I mean, there's something there that's not equalized. Whereas in the college playing level field, there is this discrepancy and there is this change of level of I'm the head coach, you're the football player.
Look, the bottom line is if you're UNC, why not do it?
No, absolutely.
Like, I don't see any, like, I have red flags raised about it. I mean, Bill Belichick is 72 years old. But at the end of the day, like, you swing and miss on this, oh no, where we've been the last 10 years as a program. So it's not like you have much to lose here.
We got our bowl games this weekend. Actually, let's talk about these NIL numbers first, should we? Brad Crawford, who works for 24/7 Sports, tweeted today a list of reports. I guess this quote, it says right here, NIL collective funding per NCAA estimates, which I have no idea what this means, okay? I have no idea if everybody submits to this. I would assume that they don't, but he put out a list of what apparently these teams are paying for their rosters, and here they are. Texas paid $22.2 million per this report. Ohio State, $20.2. LSU, $20.1. Georgia, $18.3. Texas A&M, $17.2. Michigan, $16.3. Alabama, $15.9. Florida, $15.9. Clemson, $15.2. So the question is, are these real? People will want to know, are these real? My first answer is maybe, maybe not. My answer is maybe not because Oregon's not on this list, nor is Tennessee. And if Tennessee's not on this list, that means Nico accounts for 1/7 of the total roster value up in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. That's mismanagement, and I don't believe that to be true. Also, Oregon not being on this list is fugazi. They got about $5 million sitting in their quarterback room right about now, so I don't believe that shit at all. So I do believe that some of these teams are paying this much money. My question would be if the only thing, if this is true, the only thing that makes me look at somebody a little bit differently is the fact that Clemson apparently spent $15 million on this roster this year. If Clemson spent $15 million on this roster, they need to fire their general manager. Mm-hmm. They need to fire their general manager tomorrow.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
You spent
if you got that much money to pay your current roster and you're recruiting in the 28th range, you got to go. Whoever's spending that money got to go.
Not only that, you spent $1.5 million less than Georgia, and the roster disparity is that big. We saw the difference.
Yeah.
Georgia beat you by 31 points. So, like, that's ridiculous.
But maybe that list is just of teams that Brad Crawford was able to get in contact with that was willing to share that information. Maybe it's not like, here's the top 10 teams in order or however many teams are on that list. That would be my thought because Oregon surely would be on that list. Tennessee surely would be on that list.
Somebody asked, what is the profile picture or the background picture on your phone? It's Jalen Walker pointing at my notifications. And I think it's pretty sick. Anyways.
Did you ask him to do that for you?
No, it was a celebration after a Texas sack. I think he was shooting guns. But they point right at my noties. And it looks pretty cool, if you ask me. ADD brain got the best of me there. My apologies.
Did you say noties?
Noties. Short for notifications. A man like me that's busy has to shorten things to be a little bit more efficient every once in a while. Or as I say, fish.
Give me 1 second.
I don't believe any of this NIL reporting. Do you?
It's very hard
like any
to
of it. Yeah. All of you that do the NIL reporting, I don't believe it. Even myself, I don't believe the stuff that I get told. Here's why. There are two people that put out NIL information. One is an agent. They feed it to whoever they're giving the information to. It behooves that agent that number get reported as high as humanly possible, both for the agent's purposes and for the future client's purposes. The other portion of or avenue of information that comes out on the NIL front is the losing party on the recruiting trail, right? When Texas signs Justice Terry, Auburn and Georgia are telling everybody that they can, Texas paid him $15 million. Did they pay him $15 million? Probably not. Did they pay him more than Auburn and Georgia? Maybe, but we don't know. We're never going to know the full, true transparency of this until they're out here actually giving it to us via, contract values. We don't know. It's all Fugazi stats.
The only time where I do believe it is if that team is the one giving out that number. Which
never happens.
Like a Nico example.
Yeah.
That number felt believable.
That number obviously came from Tennessee. They wanted the world to know that they're out here breaking ground.
Yeah, those are very rare circumstances where those types of numbers get floated around and they feel believable. But yeah, a lot of the NIL recruiting, and then even too, a lot of what is transpired in the transfer portal too, of these lists that are broken down of teams that are recruiting certain players and whatnot. It's so hard to actually buy into a lot of that information because you really don't know.
Remember the time when this happened in 2020? It was this is all going to be regulated. They're all going to have to be reporting how much they're spending, how much so-and-so, how much they're pulling in, how much players are earning what. And
there was supposed to be, when it first got broken into, there was supposed to be a clearinghouse. There's supposed to be a version of the clearinghouse where anything over $600 you report to the school. The school then turns around, reports it to the NCAA clearinghouse. And this was to avoid any type of pay for play. And then all the independent states started writing their own NIL law codes, and pay for play got enacted in Texas and California. And then Florida did it because they were like, well, shit, I'm not going to let that state do it, and I'm not going to do it. And then guess who else did it? Georgia. And Georgia's like, I'm not going to let them do it if I can't do it. And then next thing you know, we got nothing but pay for play all across the country.
Yep.
We got guys just getting direct deposits for $50,000 for showing up that week in workouts. It's not regulated at all. I do believe that's where we're going. Okay. Every indication that I've got is that once House versus NCAA is rectified and the rules come out of it, you're really distracting right now. Once the sanctions come out of that or regulations come out of that, I believe we're going to have some type of reporting of NIL deals. What?
I'm just reading chat.
Is it funny? Is it airable? Can we bring it to air?
I wouldn't air it, but it's funny.
Then quit giggling.
Jesus, dude. Be a Grinch right now. It's Christmas time. Cheer up.
Is it Christmas time?
Dude.
Supposedly.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time. Dude.
When does Christmas time start in your house?
Soon as you see Santa on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh. It's
Too early. Still too early.
Once leftovers get finished,
That's fair.
that's when I'm turning my mind onto it.
We were always
Pro Christmas music or anti Christmas music?
Very pro. But I'm like pro traditional classics.
Pro Christmas music, anti Christmas music.
pro Christmas music, but I'm pro Christmas music when it is starting to be played at the appropriate time, because this is my whole thing with starting Christmas too early. Of if you start Christmas in the middle of November and you're jamming out to Christmas music, there's only so many hits and songs you can play for the next month and a half. And by the next month and a half, you're gonna be really tired of it.
I'm completely anti-Christmas music. I'm like a Scrooge when it comes to Christmas music, and here's why. I had a mother, God love her soul, shopaholic for a large portion of my childhood, and we lived next to Arbor Place Mall in Douglasville. And she would, just go shopping on the weekends or whatever and just drop us off at the GameStop up there and let us play games or whatever. And they would start playing Christmas music, I shit you not, in late September.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Late September, they start playing Christmas
Yeah,
music,
that's the
and
problem.
we would have to listen to it for like 3 months. And I'm out.
And
Can't
that's
do it.
why you have to start it at an appropriate time,
Yes, thank you.
because you can't just cycle through the same songs for the next month and a half and not get tired of it.
Also, name me a single Christmas song that you're like, hey, that's an absolute banger. We got to play that year round. I could listen to it and bob my head any time of the year.
Well, no, you can't play it.
It's kind of like the national anthem. The national anthem ain't a bop. You ain't out here playing it.
Dude, I listen to the national anthem every morning when I wake up.
Checks out. Bowl games. Let's talk about them. What are your favorite matchups? I, for one, if you told me that Tulane and Florida was anything other than a September tune-up, I would have looked at you kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, maybe not this season. This season would have been like, those teams are making bowl games, but no, because Tulane was actually supposed to be pretty good this year, but the branding is very off for these to be two teams that are equally matched, and for Tulane to not be having one of these like, hey, they're the G5 representative, barely missed out on the playoff type teams. Like, this is two equally matched teams that kind of just not. Florida's what, 8-4,
7-5.
7-5. So,
What do you got? What are you excited about?
my most exciting matchup, I have USC versus Texas A&M. I think these are two teams that kind of have underrated defenses at this point. I think Jaden Maeva and Marcel Reed, should they both be starting quarterbacks for this game, I don't know why they wouldn't be, could turn into an interesting matchup. It could be one of those bowl games that turns into a really good finish.
I'm excited for Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. I love that matchup. I think that just because both of those teams kind of want to do the same thing.
I call that the don't go to the bathroom bowl. If you go to the bathroom once in that football game, you might miss the entire first half.
That might be the first football game to last less than an hour and a half.
Yep. I mean, don't eat anything that's going to have you having a bowel movement in the middle of that one, because you're going to miss the whole entire football game.
Maybe I put this theory to the test.
Jay was going to shit himself watching the Georgia
No,
Tech
you
game.
go to the bathroom.
I want to play a game with you guys.
All right.
Okay. At any point, if you can tell me the location of this football game, I'll give you $5.
All right.
Okay. It is titled the 68 Ventures Bowl. It features
One venture short.
It features the Arkansas State, what are they, the Wolves? Red Wolves?
Yeah.
and the bowling green poop-colored unis.
Falcons.
The Falcons.
Okay. Any guesses where this bowl is located currently?
Wyoming.
No.
No, I'm going to go Idaho.
It is played at Hancock Whitney Stadium.
Hancock Whitney.
New
I feel like I should
Jersey.
know. I feel like I should know the historical significance of this.
New Jersey.
No.
Philadelphia.
I'm gonna go
Mobile, Alabama is the hosting site of this absolute slobber knocker, a.k.a.
Now,
the
where
68 Ventures Bowl.
Now, where are they getting the Whitney name from?
I have no idea.
That could be concerning.
I have no idea. Do you know where the Wasabi Fenway Bowl's played?
I would assume Fenway Park.
What if you were wrong?
It's not played.
There's no way.
No,
There's
it
no
is.
way it's not played.
It is, and it features UConn and UNC. Is there any way possible that UNC can give up another 70 burger to a mid-major?
I hope so.
I don't know.
I hope
mean,
so.
Shout out Jim Mora, man.
giving
Jim
up
Mora out here got UConn in bowl games.
Yeah.
what's more impressive? Not from good or bad, but what's more impressive? Giving up 70 to a mid-major as a Power 4 school, or scoring 70 against another Power 4 school? Like, I feel like those are both equally as incredibly hard to do.
Yeah. It's pretty difficult.
Scoring
Like,
70 is a lot harder.
Florida State walked out there 4s and 5s against Georgia and still only gave up 63 points.
So that was we got the Don't Go to the Bathroom Bowl between Georgia Tech and Vandy. I have a bowl that I'm calling the We Need Brand Value Bowl. Do you know who's featured in the We Need Brand Value Bowl?
I think I have an idea who it is.
Who?
Because it's one that sticks out.
And it
Alabama,
makes-
Michigan.
It makes no sense. Why are
Alabama,
those two
Michigan.
teams playing? They're not equally
a
talented.
It's the rematch.
The
Rose
rematch.
Bowl, the Rose Bowl
The
epic
Rose
We need
Bowl
brand value.
rematch.
We
between
need brand
the two
value.
coaches that weren't there this year.
I got a dynamite bowl matchup.
Who you got?
North Texas playing Texas State at SMU Stadium in Dallas, Texas.
Wow, that's a lot of
Ooh.
Texas.
Yeah. In the Serve Pro First Responders Bowl.
Hell
Man.
yeah, dude. Shout out to the responders.
That's just America.
That's
Hell
just
yeah.
America, dude.
That's just the America Bowl.
Who says we don't have an NIT bracket in college football?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the NIT. The bowl games
Right?
are the NIT.
That's what they've become. The bowl games are nothing but NIT brackets.
but
I feel
honestly,
like there's far less of them nowadays, too.
bowl games?
Yeah. Well,
No, I think-
obviously because of the playoff, but
I think it's just people pay attention to them less now. And there's
Mm.
less significance. Like, we have more bowl games than ever, technically, but, like, the significance of them is down. Like, you read that and you're like, I'm not going to watch the so-and-so bowl between Texas State and Wyoming. So,
all right, give me one playoff take that you're absolutely Eli Drinkowitz standing on business on.
ooh, I like this.
No matter who wins the national title this year, I don't care which team of these 12, whoever wins this national title, it is going to be the most controversial. And this is coming after a year in which people say a cheater won a national title. This is going to be the most controversial national title. And I'll give you examples of why. Georgia could say, if we had Carson Beck, we'd win the national title. If we had our starting quarterback, we'd win. South Carolina is going to watch the first round of football games, and they're going to claim that we deserve to be there more than a lot of these other teams, and we think that we could make a run at a title better than this team could. Alabama will have the same thought, that Jalen Milroe and this team could put together 4 games of a playoff stretch to say we could have won a national title. Oregon could use the seeding. We were the number 1 team. We were 13-0, and the only reason we didn't win a national title is because they put the entire gauntlet against us before we could even get there. Ohio State could say the same thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams that aren't even in the playoff and teams that are in the playoff where there's going to be so many things that are going to be said about no matter who wins the national title, there's going to be a lot of people pushing back on it.
What if Georgia wins?
Then it's going to be Oregon saying, man.
With the other side.
But if Oregon gets there, then and that's maybe the one scenario where
Well, if Oregon gets there, they're only losing because they're banged up and they had to survive the gauntlet.
Sure. Yeah, that would be something like that.
I
But I
mean-
think that maybe if it is Oregon and Georgia in the national title, that would be the one matchup where there isn't a whole lot of pushback. I think that people would say, those are two, like Ryan Russillo said, give me the BCS and just go ahead and play Georgia and Oregon. He's like, I would be more okay with that than I would be a 12-team format.
Everyone's got an opinion. Now, piggybacking off of what Ryan Russillo said, we've talked about how this era of college football, the transfer portal is ruining college football. NIL has destroyed the fabric of college football. It's going to be the college football playoff that does it because they're already talking about going to 14 in the next 2 years. They're not going to be done expanding then. There's still going to be controversial picks of ooh, the 15th team should have been for the 12th spot and all this. Like, we have a March Madness bracket with, I think it's 128 teams, and there's still bubble teams where people say, this team could have made a run at it. The expansion is not going to stop, and I wouldn't be surprised within the next 10 years of people saying, maybe we should have the 24-team bracket, and let's get really interesting here. Every year, someone does on Twitter where, hey, just going to drop this here. This is what a March Madness college football bracket would look like. Isn't that great, guys? And there's a bunch of people on it that go, oh, my God, I would love this. It's going to happen. You're going to keep expanding. The thing's going to keep getting inflated, and it's eventually going to really, really ruin college football, in my opinion.
Here's the take that I'm standing on this playoff round. And it's really the take I've stood on all year, particularly during our prediction segments and things like that. Explosivity wins, right? If the offense is too consistently hard for you to move the football or move it in chunks, you're at some point going to have a really, really tough time and lose one of these football games during this run. Bonus take for you. Dylan Gabriel's the best not just the best quarterback in this playoff. He's about the only quarterback that I trust going into this one.
That's crazy to say considering the brands and teams and how many teams there are there. But
and
like
the sport we cover.
You break it down and it's like, Tennessee's had an inconsistent quarterback play. Georgia's quarterback might not play this entire playoff series. We already know how you feel about Will Howard. Like, the list goes on and on. So, yeah.
How do I feel about Will Howard?
You're not a fan.
Not a fan at all.
I feel like Howie and Benchwarmers. How do you like the sun? I'm warming up to him. What about the moon?
Sun
not
bad.
a fan.
Sun bad. Sun not my friend.
Sun hurt. Sun bad. What's not bad? This show, we got a whole nother hour coming up right now after the break. Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
As soon as I'm done, so that way we don't forget to.
You made the camera freeze. Look at that.
No, I did not.
As soon as you got up, you made the camera freeze.
We're hot mic though. Watch out now.
That's okay.
It's okay. We got a hot mic. So should I talk about the Mike Bobo story now that we have a hot mic and they can't see
dude,
us?
You just perked the ears up in the
I know.
chat.
They can't see us, but the ears are perked in the chat.
That's an
so
unfortunate
says-
stance I'm called into.
Oh my God, dude. You got froze like that. That's cold.
Yeah, I got clipped.
Are we
It's all
back?
right.
We are back.
We back.
right.
We back. We
Now.
back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into our local hour. We've got final analysis from that Georgia-Texas football game from this past weekend. We're going to hand out our end-of-season awards. We're going to talk about some portal news. Colby Young story got an update today. We'll give you that. I want to start the local hour by giving a quick shout-out to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS is indeed the answer. Head over to BetUS using the link in the description of this video. Use promo code YouTube150. You'll get a 150% deposit match on your first-time deposit up to $2,000. And 125% deposit match on your next two deposits, again, up to $2,000. Again, that promo code YouTube150. That's the place to be. Boys, where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Colby Young? Do we want to start with this cockamamie theory that has been starting out in the Georgia's fan base?
I feel like we spent so much time talking about transfer portal news. We might as well just go ahead and hit the ones that affected Georgia today.
Okay. Nitro Tuggle played a little hostile negotiation tactic today.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Well, the negotiations for Nitro, in my opinion, started about a month ago because that's when I got the text messages of, hey, might be something going on over here. And I think it got to a point where he's like, you know what, I am going to go test that open market. And then once he tests that open market, I think they came back and maybe met on some what do you call them?
Equal ground.
Common ground. Yeah,
Yeah.
some equal ground here. I think that's the story.
So do you think this probably is one of those situations where there wasn't a lot of tampering going on? If someone's going to say, hey, I'm just going to toss my name out here and see what offers I get, and then within 24 hours, it's like, actually, no, I'm staying a dog. Do you think that's probably like, if there was tampering going on, you would have to imagine he's not putting his name out there.
I think Georgia went hardest on their final counteroffer the moment he got in the portal.
Mm.
That's the way it looks like to me. I think I think this was, and they have a history of doing this. Amarius Mims hit the portal, took a visit to Florida State, and it's like, okay, you saw the other side. Now we'll tell you what we think of you, and we'll try to solidify your standing here. This happened last year. Daniel Harris and Julian Humphrey hit the portal. They get all the way into it, at least publicly, and then Georgia, goes and sees Julian Humphrey and visits him and gets him back onto the roster. I think it's a very similar thing. Maybe they don't tell him how much they truly love him until they finally hit that last. All right, dude. The bomb is what do you call it? It's we've set the ignition time on that thing. It's ticking finally. Are you gonna actually pony up? And it seems like they did today.
Yeah, certainly feels that's how things went down.
So people keep asking. Yes, Ja Jarrett hit the portal today, and I think this is one of those names. I got a list of about 10 to 12.
Yeah.
But I list about 10 to 12 names that we've kind of been prepared for that are in this, quote, negotiation time period right now between Georgia and the standoff party. In this case, Ja Jarrett. He hits the portal today. And that's a football player, man. Like, they signed Arian Smith in 2020. And then every class following that, they're like, hey, let's find one of these track guys that might be a good football player. Let's go. We like what we see in Arian. Let's see if we can go get another one of these. And then a very similar thing happened on the defensive side of the football, in my opinion, with a guy like Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, 6'6", 340 pounds, coming out of high school, moves really well, turns into a dynamic football player for them. So then they start going on this recruiting tactic of, hey, let's just find the biggest guy that moves really well and hope he pans out for us like this Jordan Davis guy did. I thought Ja Jarrett was going to be the guy in that class that turned out, even though I didn't. If you go back and look at the big board, in Brooks's big board in Ja's class, the highest-ranked nose tackle in that class, Xavier McLeod, he's the one actually turning into something right now, it seems, for Georgia, at least based off last week's performance in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, and you could kind of see this eventually coming down the road. Just how the season has gone. Didn't see a whole lot of Ja Jarrett, not even being rotated in occasionally. Now, towards the end of the season, started seeing some more
Especially
of them.
once Kristen got hurt,
Yeah.
Ja started playing a lot more.
And but it just kind of felt like there's no room for him right now. If he's going to get starting reps somewhere, it doesn't seem like it's going to be at Georgia right now.
Zacoby White tweeted out that he's staying. That's good news.
Seems like, yeah. Good old picture of me in a Georgia uniform.
Yeah. And look, that's been the key, right? You got to maintain the young, talented, promising players on your roster and can't lose those guys because you'll have a depletion on young football players in your room really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like it's always reassuring because they were always kind of, hey, this might be a guy within the next season or so. So to be able to hold on to guys like that, where he might not have shown any flashes of what his potential would be. I know he had a couple of big plays in the G-Day game, but the fact that you're going to be able to hold on to him, it seems, is big.
And holding on to both Nitro and Sokovia, knowing those were the only two guys that you took last year in the wide receiver class. If you were to lose both of them in 1 year, that's a tough break.
All right, so I get asked ad nauseum, hey, what about this guy? What about this guy? Or is Georgia going to be interested in this guy? So you know what I did today? Today I went through what I'm calling my profile for portal takes. The Georgia profile for portal takes. Category number 1 of portal takes that they are interested in historically. SEC or opponents on their current schedule. Okay, these are players that they know are winnable players in this conference, either because they play in this conference or because they've played against Georgia. All right, so think guys like London Humphreys. Think guys like dating back all the way back to like Eli Wolf playing in Tennessee and then coming to Dom Lovett coming from Missouri, right? These are football players that have played in this conference that they think can make impacts on their roster. All right, that's check number 1. That's the category that most of these portal takes ultimately fit in for these guys. All right, then the other category, someone that they have a connection with, whether it be dating back to high school recruiting rankings or whether it be because there's a former staffer that was at Georgia 5 years ago that they trust the opinion of that's now on this new staff that has this player on, okay? Think, guys like Ben Urosic they had a connection to, believe it or not. Think about players in years past that they had connections to. Think about guys like J.R. Reed, right? What was the connection there? They wanted D'Angelo Gibbs, his cousin, okay? So there's connections to most of these guys that they take in the portal from previous engagements. And then the last category, okay? Someone that's an immediate difference maker on this roster. Think like Tyke Smith. Think like Trey McKitty. Years past where, hey, Maybe there's not a connection. You might think, oh, Tyke Smith, but didn't they have Jamal Adad? Didn't he come down that year? No, they showed interest in Tyke Smith before ever even interviewing Jamal Adad. Why? Because he was an All-American caliber safety that's in the portal. They're certainly going to be interested in. So I've created a list of names that I think, not sourced, okay, this is my opinion, some sources, my opinion here of guys that they are going to be interested in based off my Portal Takes profile. Okay, you ready? KJ Concepcion would obviously be an immediate impact football player, but here's the deal. The price range has to fit because you're not a bottomless budget football team, okay? So if it gets outpriced like it seems like Eric Singleton is right now, you're probably not going to be interested, even though he fits multiple categories, right? He's an instant impact football player, and you've obviously played against him, and you know the quality of football player he is.
And I believe there's a tie with Josh Crawford.
And there's a tie there with Josh Crawford, as you mentioned. Dane Key, a player in the SEC that you've obviously played against, and for that matter, Berrien Brown. These are guys that you've scouted, guys that you've played multiple times in this conference, guys that you know are winnable football players in this conference. Williams Winery fits in multiple of these categories. Conference player and a player that you had previous engagements with. You were very, very tightly connected into that recruitment process down to the wire coming out of high school. However, price point. Got to worry about price point with that one. And I think you're far more concerned with keeping the guys in your room right now than you are into adding into that room specifically. Now, a room that I think you are certainly interested in adding into is particularly that safety room. Obviously, Dan Jackson going to run out of eligibility this year. We all believe Malachi Stark's going to be a top 50 eval in the NFL draft. That leaves 2 starters leaving this roster. David Daniel Sisavon already into the portal. That's 3 guys leaving this room, okay? So you're going to, I would imagine, maybe even see some more portal activity from guys leaving this roster at that position. It's one that you're going to be interested in the market. So a guy like Dylan Theinman, a safety from Purdue, been a 2-year starter, very well could fit the lunch pail Dan Jackson comp. Okay, a guy I'd be looking out for in the portal there. They need a safety or 2, in my honest opinion. I think that's what they're going to be heavily focused on first and foremost.
So could you see guys like Jake Pope stepping up this year, or is it going to be kind of just we'll see, but we're still going to take bodies?
Jake Pope's a good transition in this Mike Bobo stuff, okay? Because in my opinion, having been a sourced guy now, right, one of these insiders, I don't call myself that, but people look at me as an insider. Obviously, they ask questions all the time. As an insider, I think there's 2 types of information. Well, 3. The third I don't engage in. Players and players' parents. I don't talk to that nonsense. That's a totally different category that some people in this industry go down. I choose not to. Once you get here, I'm done talking to you. And then there's another. The second one is from the building, right? Staffers, coaching staff, not player, but coaches, advanced analytics guys, advanced staffers, people inside the building on a day-to-day basis. And then there's the third one. The third one's money. These are, boosters that, might have heard something in passing. And I don't do the third, so I don't know the hit rate on those. But when it comes from the building, in my last 5-6 years doing this, if the information comes from the building, you can almost bet 100% it's a fact. If it comes from the money side of the information, it's about 50-50 hit rate. Okay, whether it be, this player is going to play, or we're interested in this player, or this is going to happen. So when I hear this rumor about, and it's been the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been getting DMs and text messages about, hey, I've been hearing this about this. And what's they've been hearing? Here's what they've been hearing. That Mike Bobo is going to step down due to family, whatever, and step down and open up the offensive coordinator job at Georgia. And when I hear this, and it keeps coming, and from people that I trust sometimes, they're like, hey, I'm hearing this. And it's all coming from the money. Somebody in the booster base is starting this. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the last 3 weeks I've asked the building. It ain't coming from the building. The building shuts it down immediately. So wherever you're hearing this rumor, somebody that's, I would assume, giving a lot of money to Georgia wants some type of change at the offensive coordinator position. They just don't know what they actually want. You don't need a change at the offensive coordinator position.
You do not.
We got a Bobo hater out there.
That's what I think. Okay, and I thought it should be addressed because I keep hearing it. I keep hearing it over and over and over and over again. This is what's going to happen. And the building every single time is like, that's not being talked about around here. Nobody's talking about that around here. So There you go. Colby Young. Let's talk about this. It was announced today.
Wait, before you get into that,
What's
how
up?
did Jake Pope tie into that?
Oh, Jake Pope's mixed feelings in the building.
Okay.
There's some people in the building that like Jake Pope. There's some people in the building that don't think Jake Pope needs to be playing.
Okay.
So it's a toss up there. That's the one rare exception. Sometimes there's disagreements on player evaluations in the building. But when it comes to information coming out of the building, 100% fact almost every time.
Okay. Cool. I just didn't know how those two were tying together. So
My bad.
you're good.
ADD brain is how.
It's all good.
Ultimately. Colby Young pleaded not guilty today. Court date is set is set for May. They're going to address this court case in May.
Sounds like it.
So here's the deal. Nobody at the University of Georgia is going to be playing while they have an active case being pending. Okay, so that's that. If this court case does not get expedited, which is a lawyer apparently is trying to do, move it up to January 6th is what we saw today in reports. If that doesn't happen, then nothing happens. This is a moot point.
So I guess the new angle now is miss the Sugar Bowl, but if they win, try and be able to play in the next 2 rounds.
Yeah. I mean, the window keeps getting smaller and smaller, unfortunately, it seems, but that's the way it is.
He was at the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's back with the team, I think, so.
What?
Nothing. I'll tell you later.
He was in the stand. Okay.
I'll tell you later. Yeah, so it's a moot point. The case did not get dropped. People thought it was going to get dropped this week. It didn't. The court case is set for May. I highly doubt. I shouldn't say. I don't know shit about court cases. I don't think it's going to be expedited. Do you?
Doesn't seem that way.
Do you think the DA in Athens, Clark County is going to just do a favor because there's a football game coming up?
No.
If they were going to do a favor for them, the favor would have been done by now.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're a Georgia fan, don't cross your fingers that you see Colby Young back in a Georgia uniform this year at least.
All right.
Does
so
he have eligibility left after this?
That's been the question. I don't know that anybody really has an answer.
He played in 5 games this year.
I'd have to check his Miami records.
And I don't know if you.
I
can
thought he
figure
came
out
here
there.
as a true sophomore.
I don't think it's a true sophomore.
Maybe a redshirt sophomore.
I think he played 4 years at Miami.
Well, get to Googling, boys.
Okay.
All right. We have final analysis on Georgia and Texas. I'll go first. I was gonna do a part 2 of the entire second half. I don't think that's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do now is I'm only going to break down Georgia's offense with Gunnar Stockton, and we'll give you a full, however long it takes film study on that one. And I also wanted to leave that part 1 of the film study, allow it to breathe a little bit, okay? Because it was a lot to watch, and it took a lot of time, right? It took 2 hours for you guys to get through that and just watch it. It took me about, in totality, 9 hours to create that one. So I hope you guys, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. If you haven't finished watching it, go finish watching it. In the meantime, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be breaking down the offense with Gunnar Stockton. Super excited to bring that one to you. But here's my final thought on this football game. Georgia finds ways to win even when they don't have their best. They were so good in situational football in that game. They were absolutely dialed in and prepared defensively. Offensively, they made the adjustments in the second half to win, but they have such a championship DNA at this point, and I don't know when it's going to disappear, and I don't even know when I started to feel this about this football program, but I do, and I think it's epitomized in 2 plays in that football game. All right, Arian Smith diving on the fumble, while 2 Texas players weren't necessarily glued into this championship, do whatever it takes, win at all costs, always glued in, doing everything we can to win a football game. We have a championship mentality. That fumble is a primary example of that, as is the Lawson Lucky play where he runs the guy down and makes a tackle on the interception, which would have been a pick 6 had the Texas player just been glued in a little bit enough just to get the block. And you know what it reminded me of? There's that famous viral clip of George Kittle blocking George Karlaftis in the Super Bowl, and he just, at the very end, takes his mind off of the task at hand.
He says, "Hey, George."
He says, "Hey, George, my name's George, too." And there's a ball on the ground right behind him. And George Karlaftis falls on it. It's one of the biggest plays in the game, and it changes the game. And Kansas City goes on and wins a 1-possession football game. It's like, that's what it is. That's what it takes. And the championship DNA, the caliber of a championship DNA requires to win these football games. They have that now. every single game that has been tight this year, apart from Alabama, standing on the field, in my mind, I'm like, well, whatever happens, Georgia's going to win this football game. Down 17-0, whatever it is. Every time I'm like, I feel like Georgia's going to find a way to win this game. And that's, I don't know. Again, I don't know when this started for me, but it's there now. I feel that about them. They have a championship DNA about them. It's not that they believe that they're going to win every football game. They know that they're going to win every football game, and they approach it like that.
The phrase, and it's the only thing I can keep coming back to, is football's a game of inches, quote unquote. And some people think that's a very tongue-in-cheek thing to say. Like, it felt more exemplified in this game than it ever did. If that ball bounces an inch different for Anthony Evans, Texas probably recovers that, and the game is different. I mean, we can do that time and time again. The Arian Smith fumble, the lost unlucky tackle on the pick six. Like, if mere inches are made in that game, differences, the outcome could be absolutely different. And that's when we talk about, football's a game of inches. It's not inch by inch marching down the field, things like that. Like, this was, like you said, Georgia made all the right moments when they needed to and none of the wrong ones when it counted. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway you can have from it. I have another takeaway from this game, though, but I'll save it for Jay Will after he's done.
I was going to add on and say, and Texas was inches away from making a field goal, and that would have made all the difference in that football game as well. So that certainly hammers down that point as well. But there is some feeling, though, that if Georgia gets a game into the second half and that game is close, there is some type of reassurance knowing that your team has done that so many times, like so many times over the years. They've been in that situation. It's a one-score game in the second half, and it comes down to the fourth quarter. There is some type of reassurance knowing that Georgia is very much favored in this type of scenario unless it's one certain guy standing across from you on the sidelines, and that guy is no longer in college football.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was the only dude. And now one player. But he's I think, going to be gone in Milroe. Because he's just a superhuman every time he sees the G on the other side for some reason.
The other final analysis.
Hold on. Before you go into that, I want to say, hey, we're not going to sit here in the chat tonight and argue about Colby Young. That's not what we're going to do, okay? Because what we don't have is a bunch of law-proficient people in that chat right now. We got people with opinions, so save them, okay? Because that's not something to be arguing about with people who have common interest, which is this channel and the University of Georgia and college football. So leave that other stuff elsewhere. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Valid. The other thing I was to say is the more I've thought about this game, and now that you're kind of on the back end of the celebration and the high of winning that game and being the SEC champions and a dramatic finish, the more you think about this game, the more it makes me mad as a fan, because it's a game you did not need to play in. It's a game that you've come out on
He's so stuck on this.
I'm so mad about it. You did not need to play in this game. And you talk about, they get the bye week now. Tennessee had their bye week while you were playing Texas, and now you've come out on the other side of this game with probably out without your starting quarterback. We don't know. He's probably not going to play in the Sugar Bowl. I think we can all confirm that. You don't have a punter now. Your team's more beat up. You've had to put things on film that you might not have to. I mean, what happens if you have that fourth and 3 in a playoff game, and you have the opportunity to run a fake punt? Every team's keyed off on that now, and that you could say that's on the coaching staff for putting that in a game that necessarily doesn't matter, but the problem I have with it was, talking back before we even got a bid to go into this game, it was you don't want to play in this game for certain reasons. And I think all those certain reasons reared their ugly head for Georgia on Saturday.
I will say, though, while there is this belief that you didn't have to, and especially knowing, too, what happened to your starting quarterback in that game, there's feelings, and those feelings are warranted. Of course they are. But there is something to be said about this season for Georgia and the fact that you won an SEC title. You're the king of this conference.
Also, we're projecting those feelings as people who cover this football team.
Mm-hmm.
You stood next to Trevor Etienne in that post-game press conference.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Tell me that championship don't mean something to that guy.
And I think it showed on a lot of players after that game of they wanted to be in that game. They wanted to play for the SEC title. And I think and especially too, like I was getting at is you weren't even given a chance to be in this game a few weeks ago. It was already being written off of Georgia's not going to SEC championship. They've lost 2 games. The loss to Ole Miss cost them. It's going to be Alabama and Texas more than likely, or maybe Texas A&M finds their way in it. Even LSU was being floated around in the realm of being in the possibility while you were not. And then you end up going into that game, being a team twice, a newcomer in this conference, and you showed them, like, this is the business that we're about in this conference. I think that this SEC title does mean a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to undermine the meaning of the SEC championship game. Like, I've talked about how I think it is one of the more fun experiences to watch. It's the best conference championship game there is by far. But the fan in me is frustrated that you feel like you came out on the other side of this way more banged up than you needed to be. And obviously, yes, the players wanted to play in this game, and I'm very glad that they did, and it was a great win, and I'm very proud to say that, Georgia's the SEC champions, but there's a small party that's like, man, this could have been avoided, or it feels like it.
Ryan Mills says, why is Luke Krumanoke a .94 in the transfer portal? Because the entire industry thought he was good coming out of high school. The portal ranking is directly correlative to how highly rated they were coming out of high school. Nothing about Luke Krumanoke's performance at Florida State would tell you that he's a .94, but he was a top 70 player on 24/7 Sports Composite. So there you go. Stop looking at ratings. Stop. If you listen to this network, of all the things we've taught you, is that the rating system's got some big flaws to it. So,
I mean, it's an industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything has flaws, like in the industry world. Like,
And this fan base should know that more than a lot of fan bases.
Yeah. There's a lot of signs that rankings were wrong, both ways. Both ways.
Ooh, that looks like something you're gonna have to check. Either way,
Still,
you were in Atlanta for that game. How was it?
oh, I've been talking nothing but great things about that football game because, and I think that maybe it is a little biased because this is my first game of the entire year where I got to truly experience a fan environment, like the crowd environment at a football game, because it's enclosed at Georgia now, the press boxes. Alabama, they cracked some windows, so you got to hear it a little bit, but you really couldn't hear it. Everywhere else has been enclosed, so you can't hear the crowd. This one, I sat down in my seat in the press box, and I felt like I was just sitting in the stands, and I had my laptop.
Once you get inside the stadium, there is no better venue for a football
It's
game.
phenomenal.
There's no better venue for a football game once you get inside. However, 95% of the reason I love college football is everything before and after the game.
Yeah.
All the pageantry of it, and all the tailgating, and all the environment, and all the scenery.
Yeah.
There ain't none of that at that football
there
stadium.
isn't.
No.
There is nowhere to tailgate unless you want to pay $1,000 to park. There's nowhere to actually have a time and enjoy. Too far from the bar scene. The closest thing's the World Congress Center. Fanfare has completely died. It's got no buzz to it anymore.
No.
When the Dr. Pepper Fanfare started 15 years ago, it was the coolest shit in the world. You couldn't go to the SEC Championship game without going to it. Now it feels like something you just bypass entirely. You show up for the game time, you walk in, you watch the game, you leave.
And even in that, like that pocket of where the Mercedes-Benz is, like State Farm Arena's right there. What used to be the CNN Center is over there, and like there's not like a strip of restaurants really. Like you got Stats that's right there, and then you also have like a Ruth Chris. But there's not like and what they need is a battery. And that's what everybody needs, is they need something that like brings people into one specific area.
Without buying people out of their homes.
Yeah, exactly. Great point.
Without buying people out of their homes and just destroying their homes that they've lived in forever to build a nice scenery in the battery, they need a battery.
And you got that big wide open green space
right
right
in front
there.
of the stadium that's just got nothing but statues in it.
Yeah.
Just put something there, man.
Yeah, it needs something.
Was what you were doing on your phone, would that be something you share?
It wasn't super important.
Okay.
No, it was just distracting.
Oh.
So it's happening to me a lot lately.
It's that time of year.
Yeah, it is. Any other final thoughts on this football game?
I think we covered them all.
I'm really excited to break down that Gunner tape, but I'm kind of not. I'm half excited, half not, and here's why. I'm not going to be able to give you a true evaluation of Gunner Stockton because he's going to be Gunner Stockton in Carson Beck's system in that second half. They didn't have time. I talked about this last night, talked about this Sunday. They didn't have time to actually put in a Gunner Stockton offense. They're going to have that over the next 20 days. What we're seeing on this tape tomorrow is it's not even indicative of what he is as a football player.
Well, I mean, from that game, it feels like there was only like 2 throws where you could really evaluate Gunner off of. It's the throw to Lawson, and it was the first one to Arian. Those are like the only 2 throws in that game where
in 16 attempts.
Yeah, the other ones it's like, all right, we're going to dump it off to Delp. We're going to dump it off to Delp again. We're going to toss it out to ETN. Those types of things.
Yeah, and I mean, it was very clear that Gunnar Stockton felt like a square peg in a round hole with that offense, and it was not built around him. And I mean, the QB run game, I think, was the biggest example of that, where he's kind of known for his ability to use his legs.
He's not Stetson Bennett.
No.
He's not. Just because he can run a little bit doesn't mean he's Stetson. Gosh, Stetson went to the combine having never practiced a 40. Didn't give a shit about combine prep. Ran a 4.58. Okay? Stetson is a twitchy and sudden human being. Everything about him was a ball of twitch at 5'11". It's why he survived, okay? Because he, as soon as he sees it, ball's out right now. Had one of the more sudden and efficient throwing motions that you'll ever see on the college level. It's why he was drafted like he was in the NFL level, because they knew he could play with suddency, all right? Gunnar Stockton's all horsepower, not get off the line twitch, okay? He's all horsepower. You design an offense about verticality for him, never about running east and west. Stetson Bennett's best plays in his time period are plays where he's spinning out of pockets, rolling left, throwing balls. You're not going to see that from Gunnar. Gunnar is this way. Gunnar is far more Haynes King and a 6-foot version. And I'm going to say this name and people are going to freak out. A 6-foot version of like a Tim Tebow. Okay? He is not he's not Stetson Bennett. It's a totally different eval. So I'm tired of seeing that one.
Buddy, you're going to be giving that take the rest of the year. So
I know.
Get it out the way now because it's going to keep happening. But, I mean, it's because he's got the grit and the no-quit to him, like Stetson had. When we loved Stetson Bennett when he was there and didn't talk shit about him as a player and say he's holding back a really,
his
really
throw
good
motion is
roster.
identical to Tim Tebow. It's identical. He's down to the waist, up to 3 o'clock, back up to 12, ball out. It's 6'3", 12. He's not Stetson.
No.
Maybe we need to go back and rewatch Stetson tape. Maybe that's what we need to do so people understand just how absolutely, and you know what I mean when I say sudden.
I know exactly what you mean.
The moment Stetson Bennett saw space, his back foot was in the ground and the ball was coming out. It's why he was as great as he was.
Very rarely did you watch Stetson Bennett tape and think, oh, he was late to that read and that's why that ball was yada yada. Or, oh, that throw took too long. I mean, the fumble in the SEC championship that
would never happen on Stetson tape.
Miraculously bubbled out of bounds was a direct product of, okay, this windup is taking too long.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason it was there. So,
you'll see safeties break in on him really early.
Mm-hmm. And if you want an example of this, go watch the last drive of the Peach Bowl where Ohio State. That ball is inches, multiple times from being hit by a defender, but Stetson's release is so quick on it that it gets out.
I mean, the throw to Brock Bowers against Alabama, the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Or Natty. It was in the Natty. That just dumped it off to Brock Bowers because he was so quick with it.
And that's all it takes nowadays. You watch one scramble from a quarterback, and you're like, he's Stetson. He a running back. He squats 600 pounds. He's Nick Chubb, no doubt.
Stetson Bennett is one of one, as it should be.
That's a one-on-one human, and he's a one-on-one player.
That's how it should be. It should just be Stetson Bennett in his own category.
And this is not disrespect to Gunnar Stockton either. It's not saying that he can't be, the quarterback that Stetson Bennett was. They're just two different types of guys.
I like that comp. Gunnar is like Connor Shaw. I like that comp a lot.
Ooh, that's a good one.
If Gunnar Stockton were to play 14 games, I think he throws for 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, and rushes for 500. That's what I think
Connor
it looks
Shaw
like.
Was a nightmare.
A game log that wins national championships over the next 3 games for Georgia looks like Gunnar Stockton throwing for 230 yards, rushing for 50, not turning the ball over, and the team rushing for 150 yards.
Yep.
You will win every football game 34-17. If that's what it is, if that's what the quarterback looks like, and that's what it can be, by the way. But if you're expecting this guy to go throw it 45 times and throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns, not turn it over, you're looking for the wrong guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that comp, Connor Shaw.
It's a good one.
I think he would love that. You know why?
There's ties there.
What are the ties?
Jabo Shaw.
Jabo Shaw was his high school head coach.
He just got hired by Dawson County.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's a tough job, Dawson County.
Yeah.
Ooh, not a lot of talent in Dawson County.
Hey, be easy
Wild
now.
Bill.
Be a little easy now.
Wild Bill from Dawsonville.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Bill Elliott. And Chase. Well, Chase probably not. He probably don't claim.
Ring the bell, baby.
Yeah, he probably don't claim it up there, but, you know.
Ring the bell. Sound the siren.
Should we get into our end of season awards?
Let's do it.
All right. Who's your MVP? Should we build the MVP?
Let's build MVP.
Yeah.
All right, let's
That's
build
the
the
biggest
MVP.
one.
All right, let's start with the bad. Biggest disappointment of the year.
I'm gonna say this gracefully.
Nah, rip them.
No, I'm
Rip
not
'em.
going
Full-throated.
I'm not going to because I think this had a lot to do with, and I think I'm not gonna say all three of us. I know me and you specific because you and I had conversations about it. I think a lot of this was me doing this, but Dom Lovett is going to be my answer just because. And again, I say it's my own doing because I watched what he did at Missouri. I saw some flashes of it last year. Saw some definite flashes of it in the G-Day game.
Golly.
I thought Dom Lovett was going to have an incredible season, and he has been a meaningful contributor for Georgia. He has had some great moments this season, and he has been reliable.
Yeah.
But he just hasn't put up the numbers that I was hoping he would put up.
I am flabbergasted that he's had as many drops as he has this year.
Yeah.
I'm flabbergasted. Name a player.
That was my most disappointment. The wide receiver group as a whole.
Yeah.
All the amount of drops has just been.
Yeah.
It's not even close to the standard. It's not acceptable. Is what it's
No.
not. It's not acceptable.
No. I went with Rod Robinson. Obviously, this isn't through his fault of his own, but the entire offseason leading up to it was kind of, hey, Roger Robinson is a animal. He's been a unit in all
That
spring
Florida State
practice.
tape helped that narrative going into the offseason.
Absolutely.
That Florida State tape's incredible.
Absolutely. Like, we came in thinking like, oh my God, Roger Robinson's here, Branson Robinson, Trevor Etienne's here. They've got this Nate Frazier kid that might be really good. Like the fact that Roger Robinson really didn't play a meaningful snap, with the exception of a couple that he played against Georgia Tech that were big, but it was very disappointing, I would say.
I want to throw some water on something right now. I see Aguero's name being mentioned in the chat. Aguero's played great when he's healthy. He's been banged up this year, so I want to nix that. I've been impressed with Jonah Aguero.
Yeah,
Just hadn't played the ball very well.
And I think knowing that he had a solid year this year and he's coming back, you can expect a really good season from him next year.
All right, biggest surprise this year. I'll go with mine. And it's honestly, it was my worst take. We got best take and worst take coming up too. It's my worst take. And, you know, I do a lot of patting myself on the back on this network. I'll come here and tell you when I'm right all the time. But I think what I pride myself on is letting you know when I'm dead wrong. Now, I also pride myself on the fact that it don't happen very often. You like
What
that
a
one?
cake.
What a humble guy. But I was dead ass wrong on this one. I had a take this summer where I looked at you guys and said, hey, where is the extra playing time for Jalen Walker? Where is it? Because going into this season, it was like, hey, Damon Wilson, got to play Sam Mpemba. Chaz Chambliss coming back. Where's Mykel Williams moving to Jack? Where's the breathing room for Jalen Walker as an edge rusher, guys? I asked you that, and nobody had an answer for me. And then I looked at the inside linebacker room, and I'm like, hey, C.J. Allen back. Raylan Wilson back, needs more playing time. They got this Justin Williams guy coming in, Chris Cole guy coming in. Where is this extra playing time? Terrell Foster, where's this extra playing time for Jalen Walker at the inside linebacker position? Little did I know, they were just going to make room for him everywhere because he's that damn good.
Yeah.
Brooks is a freaking idiot.
He's a unicorn.
He's a unicorn.
And that, to be fair, like how many people would have expected Jalen Walker to be a unicorn? Not that we thought he was a bad player, but the way that he's played this year has exceeded everyone's expectations. I would say even his own, probably.
So he could qualify as biggest surprise because I don't think anybody thought going into this year Jalen Walker's going to be your best defensive player.
I absolutely agree with that. I put my biggest surprise as Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson was your best defensive player for multiple weeks. Multiple weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was ever expected to be the standard of Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson he's going to be a starter for you. He's not going to screw up. He's going to be in the right spot, and he's going to take some people's heads off. Like that's who Dan Jackson is. But Dan Jackson just played phenomenal football for the entire year.
His ability to have avoided a targeting penalty is incredible.
Avoid injury.
He got one at
Avoid injury.
Yeah.
He got one at Texas.
Nah.
And the fact that there's so many big time moments this season where Dan Jackson's connected to those, and I'm happy that's how this season went for him.
My biggest surprise, I went London Humphreys. I think coming into the season was kind of like, hey, might be a really good player, probably a 2025 thing, isn't probably going to contribute much. Now, he wasn't one of your top guys on the offense this year, but there were definitely some moments where it's like, oh my God, London Humphreys made a really good play. Clemson the first week is obviously one. That catch he had in Tennessee with a 50-50 ball is one of them. Had a couple of big moments down the stretch for you. Had a couple of drops as well, so it goes with the entire wide receiver room. But London Humphreys was a very pleasant surprise for the offense, I think.
Some are saying your fantasy team.
We need to do updates on. We didn't do updates for Tech.
I don't think
Coach of the year, who do you give it to, boys?
This is.
I think it's an easy one. I think it should be universal, honestly.
I'm sure there's a universal one, but and that's why
Make a case for somebody else.
this is why one of the reasons why I went with this name, because I think that this should be talked about. And I think this guy got a lot of heat for a little bit, and some of it, I could understand, but I gave it to Stacey Searles for this reason of that guy dealt with so many injuries and so much fluidity in that room. I mean, losing Jared Wilson and then also Tate Ratledge not being available at the same time that Jared Wilson goes down. So Drew Bobo steps in and plays center, plays great, had a great game against Auburn. You're having to figure out Micah Morris playing time, Dylan Fairchild, Xavier Trust, Ernest Green's dealing with an injury, so we got to have Monroe Freeling ready. He plays well when he starts. Ernest Green plays on Saturday in the SEC championship game as well. Like, as much movement as there was in that offensive line room, I think especially how they started to close this season, especially after the Ole Miss game, I was impressed with how much he had to deal with while also simultaneously making sure that his group was still doing a good enough job to where they could win games.
Everything on this roster was up and down all year. The defense was up and down all year. Quarterback play was up and down all year. Injury report was up and down all year. Offensive performance was up and down all year. They had an inability to run the football all year. Everything about this football team was up and down all year, except for the football team's status and this program's status, which remains on top of this conference. And the only reason that is because Kirby Smart's the coach of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that any of us would push back on saying
Not
Kirby
at all.
Smart gets the coach of the year. What I gave it to Mike Bobo for a very similar reason that you listed and that Jay Will listed. Mike Bobo had to deal with receivers having arguably one of the worst seasons you've seen in Georgia football history collectively.
Nah, give it to him. Give it to him.
It was. Let's just be fair. An offensive line that was very inconsistent throughout the year. Running game that it was a very solid running back room, but
Banged up.
revolving doors of injuries. Quarterback play was up and down. All of the things. And, each week we came in and you said, you put it on the board and pretty much gave, no, it's not the plays. It's not the play calling. And everyone kind of wanted to blame Mike Bobo for it. And the fact is that throughout these last few games, a game where you had to win 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech, you had in the moments where they had to be perfect, down 28 against Alabama, 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech, backup quarterback on the road against one of the best defenses in the SEC championship. Mike Bobo was flawless, and I don't think your team is where it is right now if Mike Bobo doesn't call the games and have the performances that he has. So I have him as coach of the year.
Yeah, no, he's just trash. They need to replace him.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there are some people that you're going to give that take to. It's like talking to a brick wall, but I feel like we all agree that Mike Bobo did a really, really good job this year.
My favorite's when other really smart football people that I trust, like coaches at other schools, that text me and like, why do people hate that man? And I'm like, Coach, I don't have an answer for you. And the coach will be like, I think he's a genius. And I'm like, Coach, I think he's pretty damn good too. I just don't know. I don't know what. I think it's just easy to shit on him.
My favorite take is it's because he runs, passes, and punts. That's the only
Too many screens.
do you understand why he's running the ball? Do you understand the run concepts he's giving you? What type of passes he's giving you?
Also, the
What
quarterback has
coverage he's
autonomy at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Quarterback has autonomy. So, quarterback might be calling 4 or 5 of those screens that you hate. Let's stop giving quarterback autonomy at the line of scrimmage. Move on to the next bitching and moaning. Rookie of the year. Who is it?
I mean, I think it's a pretty obvious two-way race here between Nate Frazier and KJ Bolden. I went with KJ Bolden just because he was consistently throughout the year where he was. Like, Nate Frazier kind of took a backseat to Trevor Etienne at certain times. Like, KJ Bolden was always in the middle of the defense, it felt like.
And I gave it to KJ as well because I can't recall a freshman moment from KJ.
Nope.
Nate Frazier had some issues putting the ball on the ground. Those are some freshman moments of.
Somebody would say the freshman moment was Ryan Williams, Alabama.
Okay.
Not getting over the top and knocking that ball down.
I'll give that one to you. And that's, you know what?
I think he was involved in that play.
He
Wasn't it
was.
him and Julian?
He was the one coming back in to try to
Correct.
run him down.
And
Correct.
I would also say that's equally just as insane of a play by an offensive player as much as it is a defensive player not making a play. But anyways, there was just never these moments of, man, KJ's kind of going through these growing pains. He's really trying to have to figure some things out. And the other thing that I loved about KJ is he's not the most like daunting person in that secondary by any means, but that dude puts his body on the line too. Just like we praised Dan Jackson for doing it, KJ Bolden also made some very physical plays this year as a true freshman, and I'll give it to him. I mean, it was a great freshman
That
season
third down
for him.
tackle he made on the Texas
huge.
overtime
Yeah.
drive, like that's
Huge.
a touchdown if he misses that tackle. So
Also, give a quick shout out to Chris Cole as an honorable
He had some
mention.
major
Yes.
moments.
Most improved football player on the year. I have 3 names.
Ooh.
Do you want all 3?
I might steal one of them.
You know what? Go
Can you
ahead.
guess all 3?
I had Dalen Everett.
That is 1.
All right. Oh, Kristen Miller.
That is 2.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess the third?
Offense or defense?
Defense. All of them defense.
Mm.
Which means you should fire the coordinator on offense because it's the coach's fault. There's the reason no one's developing. Dan Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Yeah. Kristen Miller, Dalen Everett, Dan Jackson had far better years than they did a year ago.
Mhm.
Dalen Everett had a phenomenal year.
Yeah, man.
I
really, man, I wish Kristen would have been healthy for that Texas game.
I do
would've-
too.
Oof, man. He had such a great game game 1 against those guys.
Mm-hmm. I went with Lawson Lucky as most improved because
I
I
like
think that there were moments last year where now understandably so, he was kind of forced into the fire with Brock Bowers' injury, but it was very clear that he looked like a freshman. And this year, he has made plays where it's like, oh my God, was that Brock Bowers? I mean, we can obviously go back to the catch in the Texas game. So he made some major strides this year.
Chat's giving a shout out to Chaz Chambliss, and I'm going to go ahead and nix that in the butt.
Yeah,
and
you
here's
knock,
why.
knock that off.
That guy didn't change. His opportunities did. Chaz Chambliss got more opportunities to rush the passer this year. That's why he had 6.5 sacks. It's why I was so blown away by this fan base talking about his inability to rush the passer going into this year. It's like, dude, he's not on the field on third downs. He hadn't been the last several years. Guess where he was this year on third down? He was on the field. So guess what he did? He produced, okay? He's never, in my opinion, have I ever gone on to film the last 3 years? You guys have watched almost all of them. Have I ever gone on film and go, damn, 32, where's your pass rush plan right now? Why are you just running down the midline of that offensive tackle? No, this guy's worked. He puts moves on tape every single time he gets an opportunity. He got more opportunities this year, so his stat sheet produced more results. It's been the same football player. You guys just feel differently about him right now.
Mm-hmm. And because he's got a 6 next to that sack.
6.5. Don't short my man a half a hook.
Sorry, Chaz. Please
I mean,
don't fight me.
That's
But he's got the 6.5 next to the stat line now, and that's what everyone wants to see. So
And the same thing can be said almost about Dalen Everett. Of the reason why people are now praising Dalen Everett is because he's forcing interceptions. It's like, oh, he's turning his head around. He's doing all the right things now. Dalen Everett.
By the way, in that same football game that you guys claim that, he's the MVP of, y'all love him for that Texas football game. He had 2 really bad pass interference calls in that football game where, he's getting beat and panicking. But that's the position.
Yep.
Like that is the position, playing corner at Georgia. So,
It's the most vulnerable position on the field.
yeah, you're butt naked for 4 quarters.
Are we on MVP now?
I think we are. Most valuable player.
do
Who
we
do you
want to
got?
give worst take and best take before we do MVP, or do we want to go MVP and then worst
I
take?
wouldn't mind worst take, best take. Save MVP for last.
All right, what was your best take this year?
Best take, players beat Georgia, schemes don't.
That was a good one.
That's a good
Georgia got beat by a group of players against Ole Miss, that front defensive line, and they got beat by Jalen Milroe this year.
Yes,
A
they did.
scheme did not beat them at all.
Nope.
Even
Really good
Texas. That when Texas had success Saturday night, it was 50-50 balls, wide receivers beating corners. That's about it.
My best take was I said that Dalen Everett would be the guy at corner this year. Everyone was kind of freaking out coming to the year. Oh, my God, it's a 3-way battle. We don't know. Dalen Everett's not going to be an answer. He sucks. I told you guys he's going to make improvements. He will step into the role. Now, all of a sudden, Dalen Everett's one of the better corners we have. Oh, my goodness, where did that come from? So I was very right about that, and I feel proud to say that.
My best take was I truly believe this defensive line was going to have some difference makers on it. That a collective of them were going to have great years. Warren Brinson, there were so many flashes upon that front where it was just hard for me to believe that not one or two of them was going to have great seasons. Like Warren Brinson was one of them. TID, another one of them. Nazir Stackhouse was going to be a fifth-year guy coming in this year. He had a great season as well. There was just so many guys on the defensive line where I found it so hard to believe that they weren't going to have a great year, and I feel like they did. They delivered on that one.
What was your worst take?
I don't know that I ever actually put this one out on air, so I'm going to snitch on myself. And I'm going to be a man about this one. I delivered this one to Brooks. I don't even know if he remembers it. But there was, leading it up to that Ole Miss game, on the truck ride to the stadium, I said, Georgia's going to handle him today. I was like, I just have a feeling that they're just going to handle him. I just
the
don't.
gut led you astray.
Boy, did it ever. It was a bad take. It was the complete opposite. But it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it just feels like one of those days where Georgia handles them.
It was probably that 3 a.m. cold cheeseburger you ate from the gas station.
It was probably that Red Monster I had.
Oh,
that gave me some really good. That gave
Not
me
the Red Stir. It would never betray
man,
you.
that'll lead you astray, apparently.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, I'll
Not
be
the
a man about
cheeseburger
that one.
monster.
Yeah, Kirby, he's not like you. You travel with a week's worth of food in the trunk. He doesn't, okay? He's a normal person, not a lunatic.
That night, I wish I was traveling with
Sorry,
some
bro.
food, though.
I like chicken and rice.
That was one of the most
You can make so much of it.
horrendous decisions I've made in my life. That was bad.
He came back to the truck with a cold cheeseburger that was made 2 days ago.
Oh,
It expired 2 days ago, and I
J-Will.
ate it. Didn't even hesitate. I ate it.
J-Will.
At 2 a.m., I ate it.
Ooh.
He even said, there's a microwave up in the hotel. Don't eat it. I'm going to just eat it
Actions
right
have
now.
consequences.
I'm pretty sure even the cashier.
That was my favorite part. There's a microwave in the hotel room. It's all good. I'll just eat it cold now.
I think even the cashier was like, ain't nobody buying this,
You
dude.
sure you want
No
that,
one
buddy?
is eating this.
Oh,
But-
man. Worst take other than the Jalen Walker take I had. I really thought Dominic Lovett was going to have a really special year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Really
go ahead.
thought
I'll go ahead and do this because I harped on it all year long. They did not wear black jerseys against Georgia Tech.
No, they
I
didn't.
was certain of it. I was very confident in that take. I thought I was going to be a trailblazer. I thought I was going to be able to go back and pull all the clips of me saying they would. Did not happen. So I was very.
They tried
wrong.
to tease it for the SC championship game.
They tried to tease it for the SEC championship game. I had friends that went to high school with players text me, oh, they're wearing black. I talked to so-and-so about it. I was 100% certain they were going to do it, and I was wrong.
Mundangerous in the chat. This is the worst part. I was sober. I was not.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
sober me eating a cold gas station hamburger.
How
Most
desperate were
valuable player of the season. I think the answer is nice and simple for two reasons. One, he's your best player, and he's your best leader. The most valuable player this season has been Jalen Walker,
Yeah.
and he showed up in in all the big games. He's left being your best player, your most valuable player.
Yeah, that's who I had initially. So I added in another name into the mix just because I do think this guy deserves a lot of credit. Do I need to?
No, I'm reading Super Chubs. Go ahead.
Okay. I do think Carson Beck was a very, very valuable player, and I know he had a stint of turnovers and a stretch of bad games where he was turning it over 3 times, and it's hard to defend that, especially considering that some of them, it felt like it was his own doing. But for a quarterback to go through this season, or you talked about it enough, Kirby, of like the moving parts, the drops, and everything, for a quarterback to go through all of that, and then at the end of the season, he ends as the leading touchdown passer in the conference. That is so valuable. And I feel like Carson, especially down in the second half of the stretch of the season where you couldn't lose another game, I feel like he was starting to turn into Carson Beck what he was last year, but still almost even better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that he had the injury because I do think he was going to put up great numbers in the playoffs, but he was so valuable for this offense. And Kirby said it multiple times too in his pressers, he always had the offense in the right spots, and he did things that nobody would ever know about because you can't see it watching it on the TV. That guy is so valuable.
Yeah. I went with a guy it was hard to pick an MVP this year, frankly, because there were so many players that either missed a big chunk of the season because of injury or had up and down moments. We all talked about the inconsistencies of everyone on this roster, but I went with Dan Jackson because I felt like he was one of the most consistent players on that defense. Not only was he consistent, he was consistently making plays. In a game where, an Alabama game where Malachi Starks is, not having his best day as a Georgia Bulldog, Dan Jackson was a star of that show. You don't beat Georgia Tech if Dan Jackson doesn't force that fumble. Just multiple times throughout the season where Dan Jackson came in and played really solid, consistent football, ended up saving your ass. So I went with Dan Jackson as the MVP for the season.
Solid choices, boys. Solid choices. Let's get to some of these super chubs. Travis Rice paid $20 to make me feel bad. Says, appreciate you, Brooks. Had to go into work today and tell everybody Cam Scatterbo actually isn't Amish, and I've been misled.
Ooh, damn. Retraction.
That's on me, Travis. VSL, I appreciate you for gifting those 20 memberships to this channel. That's awesome from you. He also commented, so many Kentucky players in the portal, not just backups or bench players, but starters. Is there a reason? Yeah, they trying to get the hell up out of there. Yeah, that's the reason. I mean, does anybody have a worse stretch looking forward than Kentucky?
No.
Like Vandy's even got Mo. Mississippi State, year one, well, we'll give them a scratch. Florida State, that's about the only program that feels worse than them right about now.
About that, yeah.
Okay. Went and watched the Gunner High School film eval, and my God, the Diddy's thrown there were bad. Apparently, we were Diddying back then, too.
Maybe that should be this week's Diddy counter.
The Gunner Stockton. I went back and saw it. I cannot believe I went 42 minutes on a high school highlight tape. Yeah. Insane. Way, way, way too long. Tyler Bass said, just wanted to say, I love you boys and all the work y'all put in, except you, CK2.
It is what it is.
That's unfortunate. Not going to read that comment from JB. It's an inappropriate comment towards Bill Belichick's preference for young women. Billy Abstinence says, watching Film Guy Network with my 11-year-old son all year, and today he told me he is going to no ball like Brooks, be as tall as Jay will, and rock a stash like Kirby in New York when he wins the Heisman for the Dogs at tight end.
This kid's incredible, dude.
Your
Amazing.
kid's going places.
I was about to say, if it doesn't happen just like that, I'll pay the kids college tuition. But I don't mean that. Don't hold me to that. But I do have faith. I have faith that if your son is that much into certified ball knowledge, there's no way he's not going to win a Heisman. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's fair.
It's fair.
We have another film study coming for you guys tomorrow. We're going to break down that Gunner Stockton offense in the second half of that SC championship game. I hope you guys hit that thumbs up button on your way out. What's up?
I got one last take that I wanted to give.
Oh,
to the listeners.
Hey, hold tight right here. Jay Will has a dynamite take that he has to deliver about, I believe, this senior class that is walking out of the door.
Yesterday we talked about how we didn't want to officially put Carson Beck's career to bed just yet. And I'm not doing that with this senior class, with this group that feels like they're about to leave. But just kind of had a thought in my head of the members of this class that are going to be ending their Georgia careers. And I had the thought of, this might be the damnedest of dogs class ever. And what I mean by that is when you list off the names in this group of, really the only thing you could say about them is gosh, that guy is a damn good dog. And I'll read off some of them for you. Carson Beck, a guy that sat in that quarterback room for multiple years, could have transferred, could have gone and started somewhere, waited his turn at Georgia, put up great numbers, only lost 3 games as a starter so far. That's a damn good dog right there. Cass Jones, a running back, a walk-on running back at that. That guy has stepped up in big moments for you over this year. I mean, without Cass Jones the last 2 years, who knows where your running back room is. He stayed at Georgia. That guy is a damn good dog. Dan Jackson. Do I even need to say anything about this guy? You guys know the deal with Dan. That is a damn good dog right there. Tate Ratledge. Grew up around Tennessee fans, chooses Georgia, plays 5 years at Georgia, battles through injuries. That guy is just a damn good dog. Xavier Truss. That is a damn good dog. A guy that came back, even if some people didn't want him back, but that guy started a lot of football games for you, and he cares about that G. That's a damn good dog.
He's got north of 50 starts by the time he gets done.
Nazir Stackhouse, another guy that came back, a 5th-year guy, has played a lot of games for you, a lot of meaningful snaps, impactful football player, damn good dog. Smile Munden could have gone to the NFL last year, decides to come back. Had his best season ever, especially in the second half of the year.
Played through the end of that season last year with half of a foot, basically.
Yeah.
Damn good dog.
Damn good dog right there. TID, Another damn good dog. A guy that came back this year to impact this team. And the last one I'm going to give, Chaz Chambliss. That dude is a damn good dog. And, some people will say, well, what about Michael and Malachi? Those are guys who are probably going to leave. There are names that are not on this list. Those guys are immensely talented. They are absolutely damn good dogs. But those names I listed right there, there's just something about them where it's like, someone asks you about Carson Beck or Dan Jackson in 5 years, Cass Jones, you'll say, those are some damn good dogs right there.
I love that take. The damnedest of goodest dogs class.
Hell yeah.
That's how we shall remember this one. Michael Van Buren just hit the portal. So Jackson Arnold.
I thought they announced.
Jackson Arnold to Mississippi State confirmed.
And that's interesting because I thought they announced earlier today that Michael Van Buren was staying.
Well, he just hit the portal.
He's not anymore.
Love you guys. Appreciate you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up.